the zombie emperor in American comics. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 126, Substituting. Bang! The moment their fists met, Wang Yunxiao felt a massive force surge through his arms, sending him flying backward uncontrollably. However, Sebastian, under the immense force, took several steps back, slamming heavily against the console behind him, but quickly regained his footing. While the attack hadn't caused any substantial damage to Sebastian, his repulsion indicated that Wang Yunxiao's attack had either exceeded his body's capacity to absorb energy at once, or that the absorption process required time. Regardless of the outcome, Wang Yunxiao felt completely at ease. Although that attack had been delivered with all his strength, his other strengths had yet to be fully demonstrated, such as his speed, agility, and even his special abilities. Swish! The next moment, Wang Yunxiao, who had just landed heavily on the bulkhead, vanished without even getting up. He flashed in front of Sebastian and struck him squarely on the helmeted head. While this helmet might look unsightly, it was incredibly effective, effectively shielding him from Charles's telepathy and mind control. He had already tested it on Selene, who also possessed telepathic powers. However, for Wang Yunxiao, this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The reason was simple. Sebastian was an alpha-level mutant, eager to ascend to the second generation of zombies. How could he let him go and be killed by Eric, as in the original plot? It would be a waste, especially since Wang Yunxiao was already confident he could defeat Sebastian. With a special helmet, Charles couldn't possibly know what was happening here. Bang! Sebastian couldn't avoid it, or perhaps he didn't even bother to dodge, as Wang Yunxiao's fist struck him hard on the head. His head tilted slightly. His body swayed, but he was soon safe and sound. However, Wang Yunxiao seemed oblivious to this. As soon as the punch struck Sebastian's head, another one followed. Bang! Sebastian's chest was struck hard, but not only did he suffer no real damage, but a mocking smile appeared on his face. Bang! 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 Wang Yunxiao's fists, like a violent storm, rained down on Sebastian's body continuously, regardless of whether they hit vital points or not. As long as they hit. Gradually, the mocking smile on Sebastian's face faded, and a serious look took over. He was clearly aware of the abnormality within him, and even of Wang Yunxiao's true intentions. Whoosh! Sebastian's fist, with a whistling sound, struck Wang Yunxiao's chest like lightning. In just the past few minutes, his body had already absorbed the tremendous amount of power, demonstrating the sheer ferocity of Wang Yunxiao's attack. Puff! The fist pierced Wang Yunxiao's chest, but Sebastian's face showed no joy, for he didn't feel his fist strike solidly. It turned out that Wang Yunxiao had been prepared for Sebastian's counterattack. The moment he threw the punch, he instantly vanished from the spot. Bang! 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 When Wang Yunxiao reappeared, he was already behind Sebastian, his fists raining down on him like a storm. And whenever Sebastian launched a fierce counterattack, Wang Yunxiao would immediately dodge away and launch a fierce attack from another direction, leaving him no chance. Just like that, just a few moments later, Sebastian's face flushed crimson, his body trembled, and his counterattacks faltered. Clearly, he was nearing the limit of his ability to absorb energy. Get out of my way, Sebastian suddenly roared. And a surge of power emanated from him, radiating outward in all directions, shattering everything around him. This time, Wang Yunxiao showed no sign of retreat. He bravely met the surge of power, seizing that split-second opportunity to deliver a powerful punch to Sebastian's heart. Wang Yunxiao knew that the moment Sebastian unleashed his full power was the critical moment when he couldn't absorb it at the same time. This was his only chance to subdue him quickly. If he missed that moment, capturing him alive would be a real challenge. This guy wasn't stupid. After suffering a loss once, how could he not be on guard? Fortunately, Wang Yunxiao ultimately succeeded. With a subtle, almost inaudible thud, Sebastian instantly passed out. Wang Yunxiao moved swiftly, immediately storing Sebastian in his personal space and then releasing him. But the sim was no longer the original, but a clone. Yes, a clone. For this purpose, Wang Yunxiao even took Charles Ashford back to the world of Resident Evil. Despite possessing all the technological advances of Umbrella, perfect cloning technology remained elusive in the Marvel Universe. As for the genes for Sebastian's clone, it was undoubtedly Selene. To achieve this, Wang Yunxiao not only took enormous risks but also paid a significant price. The reason for Wang Yunxiao's arduous efforts was that he knew that if he couldn't get Eric to kill Sebastian himself, given his extreme personality, Eric would undoubtedly harbor a grudge against him. While Wang Yunxiao wasn't afraid, Eric was the future leader of the Brotherhood, one of the two major mutant factions. If you were to be targeted by this guy, it would definitely not be a good thing. Of course, Wang Yunxiao could kill Eric to eliminate the threat. But he didn't want to do that. Not only would that inevitably incur Charles's hostility, but Eric himself was also a future alpha-level mutant, and his Brotherhood was always full of powerful mutants. On the other hand, if he could help Eric kill Sebastian, he would have a greater chance of earning Eric's true friendship, which wouldn't be a bad thing. However, even with Sebastian's clone ready, doing so under Charles's watch would be no easy task. Wang Yunxiao had to ensure that Sebastian's special helmet couldn't be removed, otherwise Charles would have a high chance of discovering the flaw. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 127 Conflict of Ideas. Across the sea, Salvador relentlessly pursued Sean and Alex, primarily due to her superior butterfly wings. While Sean could glide using ultrasonic waves, he was forced to flee with Alex as a burden. During the chase, Sean and Alex even fell onto a U.S. warship, where they were immediately surrounded by heavily armed U.S. troops. However, Salvador, foolishly intent on eliminating them, only created an opportunity for them to escape, demonstrating her ruthlessness and lack of wit. The three pursued each other from the sea to shore, where Salvador's flight advantage was shattered and she was ultimately defeated by Alex's plasma blast. However, Alex, still clinging to their old friendship, did not kill him. Meanwhile, Raven and Hank teamed up to battle Azazel, but their ability to teleport and emerge elusively left them completely outmatched and outmaneuvered. If Charles hadn't restrained Azazel, he wouldn't have been able to cause any more trouble. Hank's punch sent him flying, leaving him unable to fight again for a short time. As for Eric, after crashing the submarine onto the shore, he immediately rushed towards it, naturally intending to kill Sebastian himself. From beginning to end, Emma hadn't even left the fighter plane before the battle was already drawing to a close. Of course, this was also Wang Yunxiao's prior instructions: unless necessary, she shouldn't reveal her identity. After all, she was the assistant to the president of Umbrella Corporation. Wang Yunxiao had brought Emma along as a precaution, but now it seemed unnecessary. Ultimately, he had overestimated Sebastian's strength. Eric had already entered the submarine, but the next moment, he felt a sudden jolt of movement, and found himself back on the shore. Boom, 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 a series of violent explosions followed, and flames, mixed with billowing smoke, shot up into the sky, emanating from the submarine and spreading out in all directions. Even from a distance, Eric and the others were all thrown to and fro by the powerful blast, some losing their footing. Sebastian's final blow had not only inflicted significant damage on Wang Yunxiao, but also completely detonated the entire nuclear power module. Eric, coincidentally, had rushed into the submarine at that moment. Had Wang Yunxiao not intervened in time, he would have been dead. However, Eric was oblivious to these thoughts. His eyes were completely riveted by the two figures beside him, Wang Yunxiao, who had rescued him, and Sebastian, who looked like a dead dog. Kill! Eric's deep roar suddenly erupted, its deep hatred and cold murderous intent so intense that even Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but stare. Swish! A silver coin shot out of Eric's hand like lightning, instantly piercing Sebastian's heart. This very coin was the one Sebastian had given him when they first met, countless years ago, when he and his mother were trapped in a Nazi concentration camp. Was this karma? Ha ha ha! Eric laughed uncontrollably, having personally killed the very enemy he had dreamed of killing. But there wasn't a trace of joy in his laughter, only an endless sorrow. Tears were already streaming down his face. Eric, not far away, Charles watched silently, opening his mouth but swallowing back any words he might have meant to stop Eric. The others, with varying expressions, stared at Eric in silence. After a long moment, Eric finally stopped laughing, bent down, removed the special helmet from Sebastian's corpse, and firmly placed it on his own head. Wang Yunxiao didn't try to stop him, allowing Eric to proceed. Charles's telepathy was impressive, but how could the dead retain their spirits? As for why Eric had acted this way, besides personality, he simply disliked having his secrets easily peeked into, not even by his closest friends. More importantly, he saw things more clearly than Charles did. He knew that after witnessing the recent battle, neither the United States nor its rival, the Soviet Union, could remain indifferent. Faced with the impending crisis, Eric naturally wouldn't sit idly by. A counterattack was his only option. But knowing Charles, he knew Charles would surely stop him. And sure enough, Eric's judgment was correct. At that moment, the US and Soviet fleets silently adjusted their formations, their gun barrels simultaneously trained on them. It turned out that, besides watching the clash in amazement, the US and Soviet fleet commanders had also done the same thing, consult their respective high command on how to deal with these clearly non-human, earth-shattering mutants. As expected, the high command of both countries issued the same order, an all-out extermination of mutants. Sebastian's forces, as well as X-Men like Charles and Eric, must seize this opportunity to nip the mutant threat in the bud. Charles, what are you doing? Seeing Eric's actions, Charles suddenly realized something and shouted. Charles, you are too naive. Brothers and sisters, open your eyes and see clearly. Our true enemy has never been Sebastian and his men. It's out there. Eric gave Charles a deep look, then ignored him. He shouted to the crowd, pointing his finger in the direction of the American and Soviet fleets. Their cannons are trained on us. Americans, Soviets, all of humanity, united by fear of the future. Eric's eyes burned with anger and unyielding fighting spirit. As he spoke, he slowly walked towards the sea, demonstrating his resolve. At this moment, regardless of whether they agreed with Eric's philosophy or not, all the mutants followed him unconsciously, even Azazel and Salvador. Watching this scene, even Wang Yunxiao had to admit that Eric truly had the power to inspire. No wonder he formed the Brotherhood in the future and recruited so many unruly mutant warriors. Come on, Charles, tell me I was wrong, Eric said sarcastically. This wasn't directed at Charles, so who was he targeting? It went without saying. And as Charles fell silent, everyone's heart sank to the bottom. 3 more chapters for today. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 128 Accidents and Misfortunes. Missiles blasted from the guns of the US and Soviet fleets, streaking across the sky and trailing long trails of flame as they rained down upon the coast. Once antagonists, these two sides now seemed to have a strange tacit understanding, determined to annihilate all mutants before they could even begin. Damn it! How could this be? The mutants' faces paled as they watched the rapidly approaching missiles in despair, their hearts filled with a complex and incomprehensible mix of emotions. There was resentment and anger. Just moments before, they had been fighting for world peace. There was confusion and hesitation. Was there truly no place for them in this world? There was resentment and determination. Since this world wouldn't accept them, let them create one that would. Even Charles, who had always had hope in the US government, felt a wave of disbelief as he watched the approaching missile swarms, doubting the validity of his long-held ideals. Wang Yunxiao stood not far away, observing the events silently, without any intention of taking action. Of course, with his current special abilities, he was truly powerless, and could only save a limited number of people at best. At that moment, Wang Yunxiao felt a certain sympathy for the mutants, and a certain understanding of Eric's actions. If it were him, perhaps he would have made the same choice. Seeing the missiles about to strike, Eric suddenly extended a hand, and magnetic control was fully activated, instantly freezing the missiles in midair, unable to move forward. With a slight twist of his hand, the missiles redirected, aiming at the US and Soviet fleets on the sea. With his extreme temperament, he wanted nothing more than revenge, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, to show humanity that mutants were not to be trifled with. No. Eric, you said we were better people, and now is the time to prove it. Charles' expression changed drastically. He wanted to stop Eric's frenzied revenge, but the special helmet's isolation left him powerless, and he could only persuade him with all his might. There were thousands of people on those ships. Good people, innocent people, just following orders. Eric, seeing Eric show no sign of stopping, Charles shouted in rage. Innocent? Everything I've endured was done by those who followed orders. Who is truly innocent? People always pay the price for their choices and actions. Eric glanced at Charles indifferently, then waved his hand violently, sending the missiles hurtling back at an even faster rate. No. Are they devils? At that moment, the entire fleet of the US and Soviet fleets was filled with despair. Moreover, they lacked Eric's skills and could only watch their deaths approach, helpless. Eric, stop. No, Charles shouted anxiously, charging at Eric and tackling him to the ground. The two men grappled on the beach. The speeding missiles, now out of Eric's control, had already exploded in midair, and the number continued to grow. Charles, I really don't want to hurt you. Don't push me. Eric pushed Charles away, regaining control of the remaining missile swarms and continuing to bombard the US and Soviet fleets. Seeing this, Hank, Sean, and Alex rushed forward, eager to help Charles. It wasn't about saving the entire US and Soviet fleet, but instinctively trusting Charles. Azazel and Salvatore also stepped forward to stop the three men. It wasn't just out of hatred for humans, but also because, at that moment, they seemed to see a reflection of Sebastian and Eric. Indeed, in some ways, the two were the same kind of people. Both were mutant supremacists, both incredibly extreme. As for Raven, she chose not to help either side. No one was more conflicted than she at this moment. On one side was the man she had grown up with and deeply loved, and on the other was someone whose ideals she strongly shared. This was the only choice she had. Although Wang Yunxiao already knew the development and outcome of the incident, he still watched with rapt interest. It was far more entertaining and lively than watching a blockbuster movie in the cinema. Even if something unexpected happened, it wouldn't be his business, right? Well, this guy was just enjoying the excitement. Eric, stop it. If you keep going like this, there's no turning back. Charles, you know me, don't push me. The two continued to wrestle, neither able to convince the other. This was a clash of ideologies. However, Charles, pampered from childhood, was clearly no match for Eric, who had endured countless hardships since childhood. This was evident from Eric's ability to control the missiles while struggling. A punch knocked Charles briefly dazed, and Eric abandoned the struggle, suddenly standing up and focusing all his efforts on controlling the remaining missile swarm. The next moment, the missile swarm was over the US and Soviet fleets, about to strike them down. The officers and soldiers of both fleets were filled with despair, their eyes filled with the determination to die. Bang! A gunshot rang out, a bullet accurately hitting the special helmet atop Eric's head. However, the special helmet was so strong that the bullet left no trace. It was Mora. After a brief moment of shock, she resolutely chose to shoot Eric to prevent the disaster. Whether it was because she was human or because she wanted to help her lover, this was the only choice she had. Bang, bang, bang. Mora fired several more shots, but Eric waved his hand to redirect each bullet, sending it flying elsewhere. There was no way. With his magnetic control ability, he could control even these metal weapons. Suddenly, a muffled groan echoed from behind Eric. Everyone turned to see Charles, clutching his back, slumped to the ground. No. Charles, Eric, reacting the fastest, ignored everything else and rushed to Charles's side. With one hand, he lifted him up, and with the other, he magnetically extracted the bullet from his body. Without Eric's control, the missile swarms exploded mid-air, while others crashed into the sea. Only a few US and Soviet warships were affected, but this loss was far less than total annihilation. However, they didn't realize that all this cost Charles the rest of his life confined to a wheelchair. And how many people will be grateful afterward? Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129 Parting Ways. Oh, no. Raven watched the tragedy unfold in disbelief, tears instantly soaking her face. She stood there in a daze, not even bothering to check on Charles. Hank and the others stopped fighting, their gazes fixed on Charles, their expressions becoming deeply complex. At that moment, even Wang Yunxiao's gaze towards Charles was filled with regret and admiration. Even though he disagreed with Charles's ideals from the bottom of his heart, he had to admit that he was truly great. Perhaps this was Charles's charm. It was precisely because of his charisma that so many mutants followed him so wholeheartedly. Despite their inherent conflicting ideals, Eric still considered him a lifelong friend. No. Charles, Mora uttered a shrill cry, her pistol slamming to the ground. Recklessly, she rushed towards Charles. Stop. It's you. It's all because of you. Eric coldly stopped Mora. With a raised hand, the necklace around Mora's neck suddenly tightened, strangling her and suffocating her. Mora opened her mouth to argue, but no sound came out. Her eyes were wide, but she never left Charles's side. There was no fear of death, only deep remorse and longing. No. Eric, please, don't hurt her, Charles pleaded anxiously, wanting to stop Eric, but the bullet had damaged his spinal cord, leaving him unable to even move his little finger. It's not her. Eric, you know it's not her, it's you, Charles said in agony, seeing his pleas futile and Eric still showing no sign of stopping. Eric's body trembled violently at this, and he silently withdrew his magnetically controlled hand. Who, the suffocating feeling lifted, and Mora collapsed to her knees, greedily gulping down the fresh air. We're turning against each other, isn't that exactly what those people want? You know, I've been trying to warn you, Charles. Eric looked down at Charles in agony, his words filled with sorrow. I want you to stand by me, because we're brothers. You and I, we're all in this together, protecting each other, Eric urged with heartfelt sincerity. He truly hoped Charles would side with him, supporting each other and leading the mutants to glory. My friend, I'm sorry, I can't. Charles stared into Eric's eyes, a painful yet resolute refusal, a tear falling from his eye. Eric stared at Charles, seeing the resoluteness in Charles's eyes, the pain and disappointment in his heart beyond words. Charles, I'm sorry. At Eric's beckoning, Mora rushed over and hugged Charles tightly. It's okay, Mora, it's not your fault, Charles offered reassurance. Human society won't accept us. We must unite. Eric silently stood up, his gaze scanning each mutant one by one, his voice deep. Just now, humans turned against us and attacked us. Now, we must fight back. Who wants to follow me? Eric opened his arms, sincerely welcoming every mutant to join him in the fight against human oppression. Azazel and Salvatore, without hesitation, stepped to Eric's side and made their stance clear. Hank and the others exchanged bewildered glances, not because they were unsure of their choice, but rather whether to stop Eric. No matter what, none of them would betray Charles. Of course, there was one exception, Raven. Hesitation and struggle flickered in her eyes, unsure whether to take this step. Stop hiding yourself, Eric, sensing the struggle, slowly extended a hand in invitation. Raven stepped forward, but didn't accept Eric's hand. Instead, she knelt down beside Charles. Perhaps the decision had already been made, but she truly couldn't bear to leave Charles. You should follow him. Isn't that what you want? Charles whispered, drawing not only from his understanding of Raven but also from his telepathic connection. As a true friend, he couldn't prevent the other person from making a choice based on his own preferences. You promised me you wouldn't read my mind anymore, Raven said softly, gently stroking Charles' hair, her resolve fully made. I know. I promised you so much. I'm sorry. Charles' eyes gleamed with deep regret and reluctance. Take good care of him, Raven instructed Mora again, then stood up, took Eric's hand, and stood shoulder to shoulder with him. Raven, Hank opened his mouth, as if to offer some advice, but the words faltered. Hank, never forget, mutant and proud, meeting Hank's reluctant gaze, Raven declared proudly. This was exactly what she felt. Swoosh, then, at Eric's nod, Eric, Raven, Azazel, and Salvatore, hand in hand, vanished completely in a flash of blush. Charles, how are you? After a brief moment of sadness, Hank and the other two immediately surrounded Charles, asking with concern. No, I can't move. I can't feel my legs. Charles struggled to sit up and reassure his companions, but after several attempts, he failed. Don't move. Charles, don't move. You might have injured your spinal nerves. Hank hurriedly stopped Charles, saying sadly. Oh, no. We have to get him to the hospital immediately. Mora suddenly became anxious, whispering sadly. Maybe we need to leave here first. Wang Yunxiao also came over at the right time, no longer choosing to watch the show. After all, the most exciting scene was already over. In fact, Wang Yunxiao had hesitated for a moment whether to leave Azazel behind. Not only was his status as a beta-class mutant in mind, but his teleportation ability was also a bit difficult to deal with. While he was not afraid of it, the people around him would be. However, Wang Yunxiao eventually gave up the idea. It wasn't that he was afraid of Eric and the others, but he thought of Azazel's other identity, a member of the Hellfire Club. Perhaps using him to contain Selene would be a good choice. Of course, Wang Yunxiao knew that it would be almost impossible for Azazel to do it alone, but there was still Charles. Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 130 Trouble at the Door. The fighter jet returned safely to New York. After obtaining Charles's consent, everyone drove directly to the Umbrella building. Charles's bullet had already been removed, so a simple wound treatment was all that was needed, eliminating the need for a trip to the hospital and potentially avoiding government attention. As for a detailed physical examination, the Umbrella Corporation, a dominant force in the medical field, meant that even other hospitals might not have the advanced equipment we had. How could this be? The results were met with despair, with Mora's reaction being the most intense, completely unable to accept the reality. She was even more emotional than Charles himself. Charles's spinal cord had been severely damaged, resulting in paralysis from the waist down. While not incurable, current medical technology offered little hope, and it would also damage his X gene. This meant that even if Charles could be cured, he would have to give up his mutant identity and become a normal person again. And given the current situation facing mutants, could he truly give up his mutant identity? It's okay, it's really no big deal. Finally, Charles, the one involved, took the initiative to comfort the crowd. But the more he spoke, the more heartbroken they became. Mr. Wang, thank you so much for this. But it's all over now, and it's time for us to leave. Charles then directly told Wang Yunxiao that he intended to leave. Have you really decided? This incident has caused quite a stir. The US government will definitely not let you go. Wang Yunxiao was slightly taken aback, but couldn't help but confirm. He wasn't surprised by Charles's choice, but he also didn't expect him to make it so quickly. I know. But I'm prepared, Charles nodded confidently, his expression brimming with confidence. Okay. I'll have Emma send you off personally. Hearing this, Wang Yunxiao stopped insisting. It was good for Charles and the others to leave, it would also divert the attention of the CIA and other agencies away from him. He had a lot of things to do, so a little less trouble would be best. Thank you. Charles was incredibly grateful that Wang Yunxiao had asked Emma to escort him and the others away. It would be best if fewer people knew about their future hideout. After another reluctant farewell, Wang Yunxiao watched as Emma personally drove Charles and the others out of the Umbrella building. Meanwhile, in the Umbrella Corporation's president's office, Ada Wong was receiving a visitor from the CIA. She had no choice but to attend, as the CIA director, McCone, was the one who arrived. Ms. Emma, you should know exactly what those mutants did. They destroyed several warships. That's no small matter, McCone said in a deep voice, his threat clear. From what I understand, they also prevented the outbreak of World War III. Ada Wong remained silent, she wouldn't be threatened by McCone. As for the silly claim that Eric was simply forced to retaliate, Ada Wong naturally wouldn't mention it. After all, Charles, Eric, and the others had nothing to do with him. At most, they were merely temporary partners. So, Ms. Ada is determined to protect those mutants? Even if it means going against the will of the entire United States, McCone's voice deepened, as if delivering a final ultimatum. Director McCone, you're being a bit harsh. I'm just a businessman, and I never protect anyone. You should be well aware of that. After all, we've always worked together happily, haven't we? Ada Wong's words were soft yet firm, yet she left ample room for maneuver. Ms. Ada, for the sake of our friendship, I'm willing to trust you, but this matter is truly serious. High Command has already taken a direct interest in it. McCone's tone softened slightly, but his message remained clear, even directly mentioning High Command, the highest authority in the United States. Ada Wong fell silent upon hearing this. She knew that as long as Umbrella Corporation remained in the United States, it would be impossible to go against High Command's will. It wasn't just the power of one company, but the shared interests of all factions. However, Ada Wang couldn't go against Wang Yunxiao's wishes. No matter what he wanted to do, Ada Wang would stand by him unwaveringly. I apologize for interrupting your conversation. I regret to inform you, Director McCone, that Charles and the others have just left the Umbrella building. As for where they were going, I honestly have no idea. Just as Ada Wang was racking her brains for a defiant response, the office door opened and Wang Yunxiao strode in. It's really you. McCone looked at Wang Yunxiao in shock. Thank goodness, US government, that someone still remembers me. Huh, Wang Yunxiao chuckled sarcastically. He knew exactly why McCone was so shocked. It would be strange if even the CIA director didn't know he existed. Colonel Wang Yunxiao, McCone opened his mouth, as if about to say something. I guarantee they've truly left, and I don't even know where they've gone. So, if there's nothing else, you may leave, Director McCone, Wang Yunxiao interrupted bluntly. All right. I won't bother you today then. A flash of anger flashed across McCone's eyes, but he quickly suppressed it, and without hesitation, he stood up and left. Wang Yunxiao's sudden appearance had truly exceeded his expectations, catching him off guard. Choosing to leave immediately was a wise decision. Even CIA Director McCone had to treat Wang Yunxiao, a lesser-known World War II hero, with caution. Although Wang Yunxiao had been missing for nearly a decade, it was undeniable that he still held a certain influence within the US military and political system. Many of his comrades from World War II now held high positions in the military or other sectors. Perhaps, when their own interests are at stake, these people will choose to stand aside and watch, or even take advantage of others' misfortunes. But at other times, they don't mind offering a favor. After all, the interests of the umbrella group are enough to tempt many people. Ultimately, it all comes down to profit. Thanks to Fen for the guaranteed monthly pass. Today's 3 updates are here. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 131 Second Generation Zombies. Among Wang Yunxiao's former comrades, there were many who sincerely missed him and would stand up for him without hesitation should he encounter any trouble. For example, Howard Stark, the founder of Stark Group, one of the largest American conglomerates, and a co-founder of SHIELD, was one of them. As for Wang Yunxiao's claims, McCone neither believed nor dismissed them outright. Everything would become clear after the investigation. For McCone, there was no need to completely fall out with Wang Yunxiao over something as trivial as mutants. That would be the most unwise choice. While McCone's words might sound grave, the reality was that, from his perspective and that of those at high command, the mutant issue is nothing more than a minor matter. After all, the mutant force was currently too weak to be formidable, and those high up in the US government simply wanted to nip any future threat in the bud. Perhaps this is just the beginning, and the troubles will only get worse, Ada Wang said quietly, watching McCone leave. Not perhaps, but definitely. So, we must also improve our strength as quickly as possible. Wang Yunxiao, however, remained unconcerned, a mysterious glint in his eyes. Oh? Looks like you've gained quite a bit on this trip, Ada Wang beamed, the slight worry on her face instantly vanishing. Of course, we caught a big one, huh? Tell Ryan and Emma to go home early tonight, and I'll go find Charles. Wang Yunxiao kissed Ada Wang with a delighted expression, then happily left, heading straight for Charles's biology lab. In the evening, as Wang Yunxiao and Charles walked out of the biology lab side by side, his personal space was filled with special containers filled with Sebastian's blood, and even Charles himself. He had consumed an untold amount of the super healing fluid that afternoon. If it were sold, it would surely generate staggering profits. Of course, the super healing fluid hadn't been sold yet. In the Manor's underground secret room, Wang Yunxiao, Ada Wang, Lane, Emma, and Charles were all present. Their gazes were fixed on Wang Yunxiao, their anticipation unblinking. Without further ado, Wang Yunxiao immediately retrieved Sebastian from his personal space. Sebastian's eyes were closed, his breathing steady, having been injected with a high dose of tranquilizer. Indeed, Wang Yunxiao intended to use the blood surging through Sebastian's body to break free from the constraints of his third-generation zombie form and fully ascend to the second generation. Huh? Wang Yunxiao let out a long, stale breath and bit down on Sebastian's neck artery. As the hot blood rushed into his body, Wang Yunxiao's face flushed, his eyes flashing with a strange light. He felt a scorching, pleasant sensation coursing through his limbs, nearly causing him to moan. Perhaps the imminent threat of death brought Sebastian back to life, his eyes wide with terror. It was unclear whether this was due to the shock of being captured, or the knowledge of his own tragic fate. But that was all he could do. The sedative hadn't worn off yet, and he could only watch, powerless. As time passed, Sebastian's body shrank at a visible rate. In just a few minutes, he had completely decomposed into a mummy, devoid of any life. It was truly pitiful. After all, he was a figure who had shaken the world, yet now, to die silently in this secret room, was truly a matter of time and fate. Roar! Wang Yunxiao threw Sebastian's shrunken corpse aside and roared to the sky. His sharp zombie fangs shone, and his pupils turned a deep, emerald green. Ada Wang and the others watching from the side couldn't help but retreat quickly. The aura Wang Yunxiao exuded was truly overwhelming. Of course, this was also due to the pressure of his bloodline. After a long while, the roaring finally subsided, and Wang Yunxiao was looking at himself with excitement. After becoming a second-generation zombie, his strength increased exponentially. His physical strength alone was over 50 times that of an ordinary person. He even felt that he could even compete with a future Hulk in terms of physical strength alone. However, only a real fight would tell. In addition, Wang Yunxiao's 5 senses, self-healing, and regeneration abilities had also greatly increased. Although he hadn't tested it yet, he had a feeling that it would definitely be no less than that of Wolverine. The only regret for Wang Yunxiao was that his special ability hadn't increased much. Perhaps the only way to solve this problem was to use the space gem. After all, his spatial power originally came from it. However, the space stone is likely in Shield's hands now, making it a difficult target. Regardless, Wang Yunxiao now possessed the confidence to fight Selene, his nemesis, though victory was far from certain. "How is it going?" Several people gathered around, each looking at Wang Yunxiao with concern. "Excellent. It couldn't be better, ha ha ha." Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but burst out laughing again. Upon hearing this, the others beamed with delight, genuinely happy for Wang Yunxiao. "Who's going to go first?" Wang Yunxiao asked after a moment of laughter. "Let Lane go first." Ada Wang and Emma looked at Lane. As the first woman to follow Wang Yunxiao, they both respected her immensely. Charles spread his hands, indicating that it didn't matter. It wasn't his turn anyway, and he'd be the last one standing. Besides, he truly didn't care about strength. "All right. Let's begin." As Wang Yunxiao spoke, he pulled out a special container filled with Wolverine's blood from his personal space and handed it to Lane. It wasn't that Wang Yunxiao was reluctant to part with Sebastian's blood, but there was no need. According to his calculations, this single container of Wolverine's blood would be enough to elevate Lane's bloodline to the 3rd generation of zombies. If that wasn't enough, he could add Sabretooth's blood, saving Sebastian's blood for her future 2nd generation zombie advancement. Now, having reached the 2nd generation, Wang Yunxiao had unlocked the advancement restrictions for his descendants, allowing 6 to ascend to the 3rd generation. Alright, Lane didn't hesitate, accepting the special container, opening the lid and guzzling the sip. It's been so long now, she's no longer averse to blood-sucking. With over 500 daily subscriptions, Yunxiao is truly delighted. Today, he's adding another chapter and hopes readers will continue to support this book. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 132 to 3 Women Promoted. After drinking Wolverine's blood, Lane underwent a dramatic transformation from the inside out. Her zombie blood surged, her face flushed, her fangs protruded, and her gray-brown pupils began to turn yellow. Wang Yunxiao's expression froze, immediately noticing that Lane's zombie bloodline wasn't strong enough to advance. Without hesitation, he took out some saber-tooth tiger blood and handed it to her. Lane took it and gulped it down, then tossed the container aside. Roar! With a tremendous roar, Lane's 3rd generation zombie advancement was complete. Her pupils completely transformed into an amber-yellow color. Following this, waves of surging air surged outward, sending everything in their path flying. This was clearly the result of her recent advancement to the 3rd generation, and her inability to perfectly control her telekinesis. Seeing this, Wang Yunxiao instantly moved in front of Charles, securing him behind her. As for Ada Wang and Emma, she had absolutely nothing to worry about. As expected, Ada Wang unleashed her repulsive force, instantly repelling everything that rushed towards her. Emma, on the other hand, transformed into a dazzling diamond, clanging with a series of crisp sounds, rendering her impervious to harm. However, everything within the secret room was utterly destroyed in the blink of an eye. While their strength was considerable, their limited abilities left them powerless to prevent the situation. Perhaps, once Ada Wang's pull deepened, the situation would be different. "How are you, Wang Yunxiao?" Watching the radiating telekinesis gradually subside, flashed to Lane's presence and asked with concern. "I'm fine." Lane's face was filled with surprise, and she immediately recounted her feelings in detail. Lane's physical fitness had reached approximately 20 times that of an average person, and her 5 senses, self-healing, and regenerative abilities had also significantly improved, making her no different from when Wang Yunxiao was still a third-generation zombie. Even more surprising was that Lane's telekinesis had more than doubled. How does that translate? To put it in perspective, it shouldn't be any weaker than Jean Grey, the Phoenix, in her normal state. This meant she was already at the level of a beta-class mutant. However, to maximize her telekinesis, she needed to calm down and focus on developing it for a while. Who's next? After expressing his genuine joy for Lane, Wang Yunxiao turned his gaze to Ada Wong and Emma. Well, he simply ignored Charles. I'll do it, Emma immediately jumped out. She was still a child, having already made her wait impatiently for not getting ahead of Lane. Okay, you go first, Ada Wong chuckled, pinching Emma's nose affectionately. Here, Wang Yunxiao then took the blood from Wolverine and Sabretooth and handed it to Emma. Emma wasn't shy, drinking the blood of both Wolverine and Sabretooth. Wang Yunxiao thought this should be enough, given Lane's example. But unexpectedly, Emma still ran out of blood. Without even considering why, Wang Yunxiao quickly retrieved Sebastian's blood and offered it to Emma again. Feeling something was missing, Emma took it and gulped it down without hesitation. Roar! The next moment, Emma had only consumed half of Sebastian's blood from the special container when, as if unable to absorb the energy contained within, she immediately discarded the container and roared to the heavens. Unlike Lane, Emma's ascension to the third generation of zombies made no significant noise, merely transforming into a diamond body. Yet, everyone could clearly see that the light she radiated was even more dazzling than before, a clear sign of significant growth. When the roar subsided, Emma smacked her lips with a hint of lingering satisfaction. Without waiting for Wang Yunxiao's inquiries, she unfurled a detailed account of her transformations. Her physical growth was comparable to Rain's, encompassing everything from her 5 senses to her healing and regenerative abilities. As for Emma's mutant abilities, her diamond form, as seen earlier, had become even stronger, surpassing even the hardness of real diamond. However, her psychic powers remained largely unchanged, suggesting that as a future alpha-class mutant, she possessed a profound foundation. Wang Yunxiao was troubled by another question: why, having both reached the third generation of zombiehood, had Emma used half a can of Sebastian's blood more than Rain? Is it my turn? Ada Wang's words interrupted Wang Yunxiao's thoughts. With 2 sisters evolving into third-generation zombies in a row, even her calm demeanor was becoming impatient. Of course, Wang Yunxiao nodded with a smile, then took out the blood of Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Sebastian, handing them all to Ada Wang. Ada Wang smiled faintly and drank each of the 3 cans of blood slowly and leisurely, much more gracefully than Rain and Emma. Roar! After she had consumed all of Sebastian's blood, Ada Wang truly began her third generation of zombie evolution. What surprised Wang Yunxiao was that Ada Wang's amber-yellow pupils occasionally flashed with wisps of purple, appearing even deeper. This, Wang Yunxiao knew what a purple-eyed zombie signified, a mutation. However, as far as he knew, there were only 2 possible conditions for such a mutation, one being the bloodline of the Ma clan of the exorcist dragon clan, meaning possessing the destiny bloodline, the other, even more powerful, being the Pangu bloodline. And Ada Wang couldn't possibly possess either of these bloodlines? Why was that? Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Meanwhile, Ada Wang didn't make much noise like Lane. Gravity always lingered around her, hidden but unspoken, demonstrating her strong control over it. Ah! Sister Ada, why are your eyes different from ours? Emma suddenly exclaimed, apparently not the only one who had noticed this change. SHH, Ada Wang raised a finger slightly, signaling Emma not to disturb Wang Yunxiao. With Ada Wang's reminder, the other 3 also noticed Wang Yunxiao's abnormality and lowered their voices to whisper. It was mainly because Ada Wang couldn't bear Emma's curiosity and had to answer her quietly, although she didn't know why. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 133 The Black Queen arrives. Perhaps due to her mutation, Ada Wang's growth after becoming a third-generation zombie surpassed that of both Lane and Emma. Taking physical fitness alone as an example, it was over 25 times that of an average person, and nearly 5 times that of the 2 women. In terms of gravity, Ada Wang surpassed even that of a beta-class mutant, though she likely hasn't reached the alpha level. Still, this was impressive, considering gravity is one of the 4 fundamental forces of the universe, and its innate ability was already quite high. Meanwhile, while Wang Yunxiao was pondering Ada Wong's mutation, he overheard the entire conversation. This reassured him. Regardless of the cause of Ada Wong's mutation, for now, everything seemed to be progressing in a positive direction, and that was all that mattered. Meanwhile, Wang Yunxiao still couldn't definitively answer the question, why did the 3 women use such different blood types when they became 3rd-generation zombies? Finally, it was Charles' turn. Wang Yunxiao wasn't stingy, once again offering the blood of Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Sebastian. Charles, having absorbed Wolverine's blood, instantly evolved into a 3rd-generation zombie. But to Wang Yunxiao's disappointment, his growth was far inferior to that of the 3 women. Charles's physical fitness was only about 15 times that of an average person, and his 5 senses, healing abilities, and regeneration were limited. More importantly, he hadn't developed any supernatural abilities. Well, Charles was just a scientific expert, his strength wasn't the most important thing, and he couldn't be expected to fight. Wang Yunxiao could only console himself with this thought. Charles, on the other hand, was more open-minded. He had never been particularly ambitious for power. However, Charles' advancement had given Wang Yunxiao a clearer understanding. The greater the potential, the more blood energy required to advance. Therefore, among the 3 women, Rain had the lowest potential, Emma was slightly above that, and Ada Wang had the highest. Could this be the true reason behind Ada Wong's mutation? Wang Yunxiao still couldn't make a definitive conclusion. But whatever the case, Wang Yunxiao would treat all 3 women equally, without bias based on their potential or other factors. That night, perhaps due to their advancement to the 3rd generation of zombies and their surge in strength, the 3 women were all incredibly passionate, and even granted Wang Yunxiao the rare privilege of sleeping in the same bed. The feeling was indescribable. The next day, after battling almost the entire night, Wang Yunxiao slept through the night without even waking up. He would never admit that it was because he'd been nearly drained of energy the previous night. Finally, Emma woke Wang Yunxiao from his sweet dream. It was Selene who had come to visit. These sisters were truly powerful. In the living room, Wang Yunxiao saw Selene, dressed in a black leather jacket and pants, still as graceful and captivating as ever. However, facing Selene again, Wang Yunxiao was no longer as timid as before. Perhaps he hadn't had the confidence to conquer Selene alone, but with the 3 women in tow, the outcome would be completely different. This was reflected in the undisguised, burning glare Wang Yunxiao cast upon Selene. Well, it had to be admitted, he simply coveted her body. The 3 women were no strangers to this. Having long understood Wang Yunxiao's true nature, but they couldn't help but roll their eyes. What? Our god of war is finally trusting me and ready to take me in. Selene, having dealt with him countless times, was well aware of Wang Yunxiao's change, and her reaction was even bolder and more forthright. This caused the 3 women to roll their eyes again. If they hadn't understood the gravity of the situation, they would have simply left, leaving this adult couple plenty of room to maneuver. Ahem. Selene, you rushed to see us. What's going on? Wang Yunxiao coughed several times to mask his embarrassment, sensing the chill emanating from the 3 women before asking seriously. You're so clever, how could you not have guessed? Selene, taking her time, said, though a hint of resentment lingered in her words. Who came looking for you? I didn't expect them to act so quickly. Was it Azazel? Or Eric? Wang Yunxiao, understanding Selene's implication, immediately asked. So you admit it? Selene asked quietly, her tone thick with resentment. Admit what? Selene, you have to understand that under the circumstances, I had no other choice. Helping you deal with Genos was already the limit. Wang Yunxiao, naturally, refused to admit it, speaking with sincerity. But it's undeniable that this is the legacy you left behind. You must help me deal with it. Selene, no longer dwelling on the matter, simply stated her request. What? The Hellfire Club's Black Queen, the oldest known mutant, is actually afraid of them? Wang Yunxiao asked sarcastically. What? Are you looking down on my age now? Selene rolled her eyes at Wang Yunxiao, her alluring charm sending a surge of heat into his heart. Of course I'm not afraid of them. But after all the chaos Sebastian just caused, I don't want to cause any more trouble. Wouldn't it be best if this could end peacefully? You don't want the club to suffer a heavy blow, Do you? Selene added, before Wang Yunxiao could say anything. Selene was suddenly cold and arrogant, then delicate and gentle, a truly versatile witch. No wonder Sebastian couldn't completely control the Hellfire Club even when he was alive. You really overestimate me. Even if I intervened, Eric wouldn't necessarily give me face. Wang Yunxiao smiled wryly and shook his head. He was indeed not modest. Eric was now building his own faction, and naturally he would not let go of the Hellfire Club, a piece of fat meat. So what? Even if Eric was unwilling to give you face, he still had to consider the difference in strength between the two sides. Not only him, but other factions are also eyeing the club covetously. Only if you step forward can this be resolved invisibly. Selene smiled calmly, showing her full confidence in Wang Yunxiao. You mean? Wang Yunxiao stared into Selene's eyes and asked word by word. That's right. I want to nominate you to be the new organizer of the club, by Wang. Selene's answer was exactly what Wang Yunxiao had in mind. He had to admit that at this moment, Wang Yunxiao was really moved. Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 134 Selene's Passion. What? Are you still hesitating? Isn't this your goal? Selene's eyes flickered, her voice serene. Have you truly thought it through? Wang Yunxiao gazed into Selene's eyes for a long moment before finally asking solemnly. This matter was of grave importance, and he couldn't afford to be careless. Now that everything was going according to his plan, he didn't want to be tricked by Selene at the last minute. Of course. Haven't my feelings been made clear long ago? It seems you still refuse to trust me. Selene shot Wang Yunxiao a resentful look that would melt any man to the core. Yes. Even now, I still can't fully trust you, but this time, Wang Yunxiao's expression remained unchanged, his heart even calmer. Then how can you trust me? A strange glint flashed in Selene's eyes, and her tone grew even more resentful, like a wronged young wife. It's simple. Truly become mine. Wang Yunxiao remained unmoved, his voice deep. You're so mean, Selene said with a foolish smile, her cheeks flushed, her eyes a pool of spring water. Even the three women couldn't help but feel their hearts pounding. Wang Yunxiao remained silent, staring at Selene, his expression more serious than ever. Tell me, what do you want from me? I'll do whatever you say. Isn't that enough? Selene saw this, not at all embarrassed, and continued to pout. Hey, Selene, I must warn you, if it really comes to that, you will never be able to leave me. Of course, each of us will also consider you our closest family member. You'd better think it over carefully. Wang Yunxiao sighed softly, deciding not to continue entangled with Selene. This woman was really too difficult. I said, I've already thought it through clearly. Selene's eyes moved, the pouting expression on her face unchanged, but her response was not hesitant at all. Okay, Wang Yunxiao replied softly, suddenly standing up. His entire demeanor underwent a startling transformation. Sharp zombie fangs bared, his eyes transformed into emerald green pupils, and a powerful, murderous aura emanated from him. Almost instantly, the three women, sharing Wang Yunxiao's sentiments, rose to their feet and surrounded Selene from the left, right, and back. Their zombie forms, though less imposing than Wang Yunxiao's, were equally formidable. Their message was clear, as Wang Yunxiao had just said, once Selene had begun, she would continue, with no retreat possible. Even if Selene resisted, the four would stop at nothing to capture her. Her zombie form was their greatest secret, and they would never allow it to be exposed. Would Selene change her mind or resist? Of course not. After all, they were the oldest mutants in existence, so they'd seen everything. While she was inwardly astonished by the transformations of the four, and had never even seen zombies, creatures found only in Chinese mythology, she'd only heard of them. Yet, she remained composed, unfazed. Seeing Wang Yunxiao slowly approaching, Selene maintained her composure, though her slightly constricted pupils betrayed the turmoil within. This wasn't surprising. No one could remain indifferent in the face of the unknown, unless they were a mindless machine. Don't worry, it'll be okay. Wang Yunxiao buried his head in Selene's neck, whispering softly in her ear. Her eyes widened, and a strange feeling washed over her. The loss of blood didn't cause her any pain, but instead, it gave her a uniquely euphoric, refreshing feeling. Roar! A resounding roar echoed across Long Island, causing quite a stir. But that didn't matter. It would surely be quickly quelled. For now, Selene was immersed in this novel sensation. Perhaps her overall strength had barely improved after transforming into a zombie, but the physical enhancement was substantial. Furthermore, with her vast knowledge, it was clear that the zombie form held infinite potential, further elevating her already nearly maximized potential. Across from Selene, Wang Yunxiao's eyes shone with joy and excitement. While the impending acquisition of the Hellfire Club was certainly gratifying, he was even more amazed by Selene herself. In both strength and ability, Selene was unrivaled and would undoubtedly be a great asset to him. Perhaps, among the three women, only the mutated Ada Wong could rival Selene in potential, but for now, there was still a significant gap in their strength. As for the three women, they had already quietly retreated just as Wang Yunxiao bit Selene's neck. Though somewhat displeased with Selene's proactive approach and her prolonged seduction of Wang Yunxiao, they still treated their soon-to-be sister with respect, leaving them alone. "How do you feel?" Wang Yunxiao asked Selene with concern after the roar subsided. His attitude had completely changed. After all, they were family now. Selene didn't reply. Her gray-brown pupils blazed with fiery passion. She threw Wang Yunxiao onto the sofa, throwing pieces of clothing high in the air. Both men and women pressed passionate lips against his face and chest. After the lovemaking, Wang Yunxiao lay spread-eagle on the sofa, his brows etched with an intense sense of contentment. He hadn't expected Selene's previous display to be so wild. It truly gave him a completely different experience than he'd ever experienced before. "Is that your biggest secret?" "It's quite good." Selene curled up in Wang Yunxiao's arms like a kitten, her delicate fingers rubbing circles on his chest. "Yet, how does it feel?" Wang Yunxiao quickly grabbed Selene's playful hand, not noticing that someone had regained his excitement. Although he longed to have another in-depth conversation with Selene, he suppressed his throbbing heart out of consideration for the feelings of the three women. "Coward, haha," Selene chuckled foolishly, clearly seeing through Wang Yunxiao's little tricks. "It feels really good. Tell me, with such a good offer, why didn't you agree to it sooner?" Selene didn't continue teasing Wang Yunxiao, but still asked with a hint of resentment. "Can you blame me? It's because you're so powerful." Wang Yunxiao immediately pointed to the sky and complained, causing Selene to laugh again. Thanks to book friends 2019103004608185, Forever Yiki, at King Wu, Miwogang, ends for their guaranteed monthly tickets. Today's 3 updates are here. Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 135 Selene's Promotion. What are you going to do next? Selene asked with a hint of curiosity, naturally referring to Wang Yunxiao's arrangements for the Hellfire Club. "I'll personally take charge in the early stages. Once this situation is over, I'll have Emma stay and help you." Wang Yunxiao had a plan in mind. It's worth noting that even before Sebastian began his turmoil, Selene had already gathered key members of the Hellfire Club and moved the headquarters to New York, making it easier for him to manage both sides. After Sebastian's recent uproar, coupled with Wang Yunxiao's exposure, the Umbrella Group was inevitably once again in the spotlight, and the Hellfire Club was pushed to the forefront. Both sides now needed his leadership. "Alright, with Emma and I in charge, I'm sure there won't be any more trouble at the club. Why not nominate her as the organizer, and call her the White Queen?" Selene nodded slightly. She knew Emma's strength and abilities, and was perfectly content with Wang Yunxiao's arrangement. She was even prepared to push Emma directly into the position of organizer of the White Queen, and just like that, with a few words, Emma's trajectory was brought back to square one, once again becoming the White Queen of the Hellfire Club. "Alright, get up. I'll take you somewhere." Seeing that it was getting late, Wang Yunxiao patted Selene's hip and said with a grin. "Hate." Selene gave Wang Yunxiao a coquettish roll of the eyes, but she still got up and, led by Wang Yunxiao, headed to the bathroom. After showering, Wang Yunxiao returned to the living room refreshed. Emma was already waiting there, with 2 piles of clothes beside her, naturally prepared for Wang Yunxiao and Selene. HMPH, Emma snorted softly at the sight of Wang Yunxiao approaching, turning her head away to express her displeasure. "Where are they?" Wang Yunxiao had plenty of ways to deal with Emma. He strode over and pulled her into a hug, pinching her nose at the end. "You're so annoying. The 2 sisters are already at the group. Are you staying to watch the show?" Emma slapped Wang Yunxiao's hand away and retorted in a gruff tone. "What? Are you really angry? Don't worry, I'll make it up to you tonight." Wang Yunxiao leaned close to Emma's ear and chuckled softly. "I'll bite you to death." You rascal. Feeling the heat in her ear, Emma's cheeks flushed, and she punched Wang Yunxiao lightly with her fist in embarrassment. Amidst the playful banter, Wang Yunxiao easily soothed Emma. Meanwhile, Wang Yunxiao didn't forget to tell her about going to the Hellfire Club to help Selene, asking for her opinion. In such matters, Wang Yunxiao was quite democratic. Emma naturally had no objections to this, instead expressing great interest. She wasn't one to sit still, and a complex situation like the Hellfire Club was perfectly suited for her. The two waited for nearly half an hour before Selene finally returned, having finished washing up. Women, one must say, are just so troublesome. But it must also be said that at this moment, she truly looked like a lotus flower emerging from pure water, pure yet tinged with a touch of allure, a truly unique charm. What are you talking about? You look so happy, Selene asked with a smile, unfazed by Emma's presence, as she picked up her clothes and put them on. She wore the same black leather jacket and pants, adding a touch of mystery and allure to her. No problem. Now that everything's settled, let's go. Wang Yunxiao smiled, dressed himself, and led the two women straight to the underground chamber. The chaotic scene within the chamber truly surprised Selene. Well, this was all an accident. We'll have someone clean it up later. Wang Yunxiao paused slightly, remembering that the secret room hadn't been cleaned up since last night. Chuckles, Emma laughed, finding it hard to see Wang Yunxiao so embarrassed. Alright, let's get down to business first. Wang Yunxiao shrugged and retrieved the blood of Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Sebastian from his personal space, briefly explaining the situation to Selene. After some thought, Wang Yunxiao felt a little unsafe and retrieved the unconscious Genos Questi, the Torrent, primarily due to Selene's immense strength and background. Of course, it would be best if he wasn't needed. The Hellfire Club needed help, and he'd be a good candidate. Selene's eyes flickered with surprise. Although she knew from her inherited memories that zombie bloodlines could be promoted, she hadn't expected Wang Yunxiao to be so thorough in his preparations. Then, Selene didn't hesitate at all and drank the blood of Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Sebastian one by one. She naturally had no obstacles in sucking blood. As the oldest mutant, how do you think she did it? Isn't it just plundering the vitality of others? Although the methods are different, in a sense, she can be regarded as a soul vampire. Roar. After Sebastian's blood was drunk, Selene suddenly roared to the sky. Fortunately, the sound insulation of the secret room is excellent, otherwise it would be unbearable to make two big noises in one day. The black hair moved without wind, the sharp zombie fangs, the ember-like yellow vertical pupils, and the chaotic airflow lingering around her body made Selene even more mysterious and noble, just like a queen from the dark plane. Seeing this, Wang Yunxiao finally confirmed that Selene had truly developed her psychic abilities to the limit, even finding new ways to seamlessly integrate them with magic. After a hearty outburst, Selene finally stopped her rant and met the curious gazes of Wang Yunxiao and Emma. Smiling, she recounted the fruits of her third-generation zombie evolution. As Wang Yunxiao had expected, Selene's strength and heritage were immense. Her psychic abilities had barely undergone a mysterious boost. Instead, her physical form, while not as transformed as Ada Wong's, had experienced a similar surge, surpassing both Rain and Emma by a significant margin. The three of them did not linger in the secret room. Genos, who had narrowly escaped death, was not reacquired by Wang Yunxiao. He would return to the Hellfire Club, providing a minor supporting role for Selene and Emma. As for whether Genos would accept this fate, Wang Yunxiao had no doubt he had faith in Selene's methods. That night, Ada Wong, Ryan and Charles all returned early and sincerely welcomed Selene to join their big family. Please collect, subscribe, recommend and vote for me. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136 Old Friends Reunion. That evening, Wang Yunxiao, Selene, and Emma arrived at a nightclub on Broadway, naturally the new headquarters of the Hellfire Club. From the outside, the club looked unremarkable, neither flashy nor deliberately understated. It was simply an ordinary Broadway nightclub. Security at the entrance was tighter, with all the men dressed in black. But inside, the scene was quite different. The opulent decor, melodious music, and soft lighting all exuded luxury, grandeur, and sophistication. Most importantly, the sleek, attractive waiters bustled around, adding a touch of class to the atmosphere. It was only 8 p.m., but the club was already packed with patrons. Judging by their attire, it was clear they were all members of the so-called social elite, even wealthy businesspeople and celebrities. After crossing the lobby, Selene led the three of them up the elevator to the nightclub's exclusive, top-floor club. Compared to the Las Vegas headquarters, while this place lacked a certain air of mystery, it also possessed a more imposing atmosphere. Furthermore, privacy was a top-tier concern. It was undeniably top-tier. Wang Yunxiao didn't hesitate, needing no invitation from Selene. He simply found a spacious, comfortable sofa with Emma in his arms, now the club's master. Selene personally poured a glass of red wine for the three of them from the bar and snuggled up to Wang Yunxiao's other side. Next, when are you planning on holding the senior members gathering? Wang Yunxiao raised his glass, took a sip, and couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Honestly, the Hellfire Club had meticulously prepared these details, guaranteeing a truly luxurious experience. Tomorrow. It's time to get started, Selene replied without hesitation, having already made plans. She raised her glass and clinked it with Emma's. All right, Wang Yunxiao nodded slightly, fully approving of Selene's decision. He believed that with him and Emma joining the team, the Hellfire Club would soon find peace. The reason was simple. Although Wang Yunxiao had no intention of publicly revealing his identity, it was no longer a secret to those with ulterior motives, and word would soon spread among the upper echelons of American society. Those who could become high-ranking members of the Hellfire Club naturally belonged to this group. As for Emma, while she was ostensibly just Ada Wang's assistant, as one of her closest confidants, she represented her, and indeed the entire Umbrella Corporation, to a certain extent. The Hellfire Club's network of connections extended across the United States, but its reach into the hands of top-tier capital like Umbrella was truly scarce. Emma's arrival would undoubtedly provide a shot in the arm for the already volatile club. This was not to mention Wang Yunxiao's vast hidden network. Furthermore, he felt confident in bringing in Howard Stark, another controller of top-tier capital, to the club. As a crucial part of his power, now that Wang Yunxiao had decided to openly assume control of the Hellfire Club, he naturally needed to maximize his advantages and integrate all his hidden connections into the club. This would not only enhance the club's influence and strength, but also maintain those connections. Why not? Selene and Emma, with their abilities, were confident they could handle these matters flawlessly. Do you think that guy will show up? Emma suddenly asked after the three of them had been chatting and laughing for a while. Referring to Eric. In the afternoon, Selene had already detailed the current situation at the Hellfire Club to Emma. She was preparing to make her move, feeling strangely excited. Maybe, who knows, Wang Yunxiao shrugged nonchalantly. He truly didn't care much for the matter. That's annoying, Emma grumbled, slapping Wang Yunxiao in frustration. This was truly discouraging her. I think he'll come. He's afraid of delays, Selene, considerate enough, replied after a moment's reflection. Really? That's great, Emma cheered, her expression brimming with excitement. She looked as if she could have Eric standing right in front of her right now. Ding-ling-ling, as she spoke, the phone rang nearby. Emma's cheers immediately ceased, holding her breath, her eyes fixed on the phone, unblinking. Hello, Selene stood up, walked over, and answered the phone. After a brief, meaningful look, she hung up, giving the two of them a long, pointed look, and walked out. He's coming, he's really coming, Emma whispered softly, unable to conceal the excitement in her eyes. She looked incredibly adorable. Pa, Wang Yunxiao was so amused that he couldn't help but kiss Emma on the cheek. You're so annoying, Emma pushed Wang Yunxiao away, disapproving, and pulled out a small mirror to check her makeup. Not long after, footsteps were heard, and the two looked up at the same time. The people coming were a man and a woman. Although the man was not very handsome, he had a unique mature charm, the kind that could attract women the most. The woman was a real beauty, giving people a heroic feeling. Seeing these two people, Wang Yunxiao's eyes froze instantly, and he could no longer move away. Although he had not seen them for nearly 20 years, how could he forget them? The next moment, Wang Yunxiao stood up suddenly, strode towards the two people, hugged the man tightly, and patted his back heavily. Oh, my God, the woman covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes sparkling with crystals, and she could not suppress her excitement at the moment. The person who could have inspired Wang Yunxiao's response was, of course, his former best friend, Howard Stark, the founder of Stark Industries, one of the founders of SHIELD, and America's most famous playboy. The other woman was Peggy Carter, the current director of SHIELD and the girlfriend of Captain America, Steve Rogers. Long time no see. After a long pause, the two finally separated, their countless words finally condensed into this sigh. Yes, it's been a long time, Peggy sighed beside them. Peggy, after all these years, you haven't changed at all. You've become even more charming. Wang Yunxiao turned to look at Peggy, opening his arms. You've become bad too, and even learned to be a playboy. Peggy glared at Wang Yunxiao, then stepped forward and embraced him tightly. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 137 The Ambition of the Two Women. Yunxiao, where have you been all these years? What exactly happened back then? Peggy couldn't help but ask as soon as they sat down. Both Wang Yunxiao and Howard knew that while Peggy's words were motivated by concern for Wang Yunxiao, they were more concerned for her lover, who had been missing for nearly 20 years. Now that Wang Yunxiao could return, what about Steve? It's nothing. Steve and I boarded the Valkyrie. Wang Yunxiao gave Peggy a meaningful look and, without holding back, recounted the events of that year. So, I was knocked unconscious by that cosmic cube for over a decade, and only then did I return to New York. Wang Yunxiao spoke for nearly half an hour before he finished, though he wasn't so foolish as to even reveal his time on the set of Resident Evil. Is that so? Peggy muttered, her disappointment evident. Though she knew the odds were slim, she still hoped for a miracle. Wang Yunxiao couldn't dissuade her. He couldn't tell Peggy that her friend wasn't dead, but was hibernating in some Arctic ice cave. If you've already woken up, why didn't you come find us? Howard, sensing the tension between the two, tried to change the subject. I'd like to, too. But I'm not afraid of my poor friend getting kicked out by some wealthy tycoon, Wang Yunxiao joked, raising an eyebrow, happy to end the tedious conversation. Rich? Damn you, Howard cursed with a sneer, but didn't pursue the matter further. In fact, he'd regretted asking the question the moment he'd asked it. It was obvious, the US government hadn't acknowledged Wang Yunxiao's existence. What? Am I wrong? Who in the US doesn't know Stark Industries? Admit it, you're a wealthy tycoon, Wang Yunxiao replied with a grin. You're the rich one, bastard. Come to think of it, your umbrella corporation isn't bad either. It's only been around for a few years, Howard replied, his voice tinged with emotion. Indeed, in just a few short years, they'd grown the umbrella corporation from nothing to a dominant force in the fields of electronics, communications, healthcare, and biology. Even he couldn't have achieved that. That's right. It can't be that much worse than you, right? Wang Yunxiao admitted frankly. There was really no need to hide anything from these two old friends. Besides, it couldn't be hidden. Once his identity was exposed, it would become clear that he was the mastermind behind the Umbrella Corporation, and that would be impossible to conceal from everyone. The two of them chatted for another moment, their conversation unfazed. Peggy quickly recovered and joined in the conversation with familiarity. Sorry, I have something else tonight, so I'll be heading home first. We'll get together sometime. The three chatted for nearly an hour before Payne suddenly, apologetically, stood up and took his leave. Well, it's a bit late today, Wang Yunxiao said with a smile, standing up. He knew full well that many people must be waiting for Peggy, awaiting the outcome of their meeting with him. Why don't you come with us? Is this really okay? After watching Selene escort Peggy away, Wang Yunxiao turned and joked to Howard. Tisk, they're just a bunch of idle idiots, who cares about them? Howard curled his lips, a look of disapproval on his face. After all, you're half the owner here now, so why don't you treat my old friend properly? Hey, then, Howard's face broke into a smile that every man understands. You. Wang Yunxiao was speechless for a moment. It's true that it's easy to change a country, but it's hard to change one's nature. But he still gave Emma a wink. Emma rolled her eyes. She had heard a lot about Howard's reputation as a playboy. She stood up and went to find Selene to make arrangements. Soon, the two girls returned with a large group of beautiful girls, which made Howard stare at them with his eyes wide open and his face beaming with joy. The lights in the hall dimmed and the music started. Howard, who was worthy of being the famous playboy in the whole city, naturally got along well with the girls. Hey, brother, Your place is really great." Having just enjoyed a hot and sweet kiss from a beautiful girl, Howard turned sideways and gave Wang Yunxiao a thumbs up. "Yeah, then become a member here. Are you interested?" Wang Yunxiao asked with a smile. "No problem. Only a fool would not join such a great place." Howard was slightly startled, then nodded in agreement. "Thank you." Wang Yunxiao raised his glass and clinked glasses with Howard. Seeing this, Selene and Emma on the side could not hide the joy in their eyes. They knew Howard was simply giving Wang Yunxiao a favor, otherwise, he might not have considered joining the Hellfire Club. It wasn't like the club hadn't invited him before. Besides, with his status and position, what in the world could he not enjoy? Of course, Howard's joining the Hellfire Club wasn't without its benefits. At the very least, it would help him expand his network and avoid a lot of hassle in handling certain matters. But ultimately, the Hellfire Club benefited greatly. With Howard joining, it was foreseeable that the Hellfire Club would experience explosive growth, both in size and influence. Beyond anything else, the name Howard Stark alone would undoubtedly attract a flood of new members. Across the United States, countless people wanted to meet him, or even curry favor with him, but were unable to find the means. In this respect, Wang Yunxiao's Umbrella Group was vastly inferior. The key issue is that the Umbrella Group was so new, lacking in both foundation and connections. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to such lengths to gain control of the Hellfire Club. In fact, if Howard could become one of the organizers of the Hellfire Club, the effect would naturally be even better. However, given his position as a member of SHIELD, a specialized agency, it's a bit of a misnomer. After all, the Hellfire Club has a mutant component. Whether it's Selene or Emma, their mutant identities can't be completely concealed. And wasn't SHIELD created to deal with supernatural abilities like mutants? The two women smiled at each other, each seeing the burning ambition deep in the other's eyes. They were confident they could truly make the Hellfire Club the most exclusive and stylish high-end social club in the United States, and perhaps even the world. Thank you, Yai, for your guaranteed monthly pass to Wondering Life. 3 updates today. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 138: The Scientist Who Came to Your Door. After a ridiculous argument with Howard that lasted most of the night, Wang Yunxiao still arrived at the Umbrella building early in the morning with Ada Wang and Lane to start work, even though he never got involved and was a hands-off manager. Even so, the two women didn't treat him well. At that moment, Wang Yunxiao truly realized how troublesome having too many women could be. But he quickly dismissed the thought. If he saw another woman who captured his heart, he would surely revel in it again. Once at the Umbrella building, the two women began to work, so Wang Yunxiao ducked into Emma's office, the CEO's assistant, to relax. Well, since Emma would rarely come over, it made sense that this office would become his lounge. However, Wang Yunxiao's quiet escape wasn't long before Ada Wang approached. It was unclear what had happened. She should have been in a meeting at that moment. "A geneticist is here, and I think you should meet him." Ada Wang's eyes flashed with curiosity. "Oh? Who is it?" Wang Yunxiao also became interested. "He calls himself Bolivar Trask. He says he discovered the X gene while researching the secrets of human DNA. To further his research, he's seeking investment from us," Ada Wang said meaningfully. It's no wonder she reacted this way. Perhaps Emma and Selene's identities hadn't been revealed yet, but with the Sebastian incident having become such a big deal, it would have been easy for anyone with inside information to know about their partnership with the mutants. "So it's him?" Wang Yunxiao's eyes lit up, a glint of insight flashing. He knew who Bolivar was, the founder of the future Trask Industries and known as the father of the Sentinels. His Sentinel robots would eventually drive mutants into extinction. On second thought, Wang Yunxiao wasn't surprised. Before founding Trask Industries, Bolivar's short stature made him difficult to trust, and he faced numerous setbacks. After all, this world is all about appearances. However, he hadn't given up. It wasn't surprising that he'd approached Umbrella Group for investment. "Let's go. Let's meet him." Wang Yunxiao stood up suddenly and strode out. Bolivar was a scientist as accomplished as Charles. Now that he'd offered himself, he'd be a fool to let him go. "Hello. Dr. Teslak, welcome to Umbrella Group." Wang Yunxiao greeted Bolivar with genuine warmth in the reception room. "Who are you?" Bolivar looked at Wang Yunxiao with a hint of confusion, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. He'd come primarily to meet Ada Wang, the president of Umbrella Group, But now he was being greeted by a man he didn't know. What good was that? Clearly, Bolivar was incredibly out of touch with the world, or perhaps he was so absorbed in his research that he ignored the outside world and didn't know Wang Yunxiao's true identity. Wang Yunxiao, chairman of Umbrella Group, Wang Yunxiao said, unfazed, introducing himself with a smile. What? Hello, hello. Bolivar was startled at the words, then immediately overwhelmed with surprise. He stood up and greeted them repeatedly. Please sit down. Dr. Teslak, could you please tell me more about your research? Wang Yunxiao politely invited Bolivar to a seat before asking knowingly. Of course, of course. My research focuses on the mysteries of human DNA. By chance, I discovered a miraculous gene I call the X gene. Bolivar excitedly pulled out a sheaf of information, handed it to Wang Yunxiao, and began to speak eloquently. According to my research, the X gene is hidden in a significant number of people, and it could awaken at any time. Those who awaken the X gene can be called mutants. Mr. Wang, you should also know Sebastian, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's a mutant. To bolster his credibility, Bolivar used Sebastian as an example. Well, it's not like this guy doesn't pay any attention to the outside world, but he only has a superficial understanding. Otherwise, he wouldn't be showing off his ignorance in front of Wang Yunxiao. Mr. Wang, please believe me. Mutants will definitely pose a huge threat to humanity in the future, possibly even leading to human extinction. Therefore, we must prepare for it and make preparations early, Bolivar concluded, reiterating his theory of the mutant threat. Oh? Then I wonder what Dr. Teslak plans to do. Wang Yunxiao listened patiently to Bolivar's story, his expression perfectly thoughtful. I plan to develop a robot called Sentinel, specifically to deal with mutants. Bolivar's delight grew as he pulled out an even thicker stack of information from his briefcase. Of course, it was mostly theoretical concepts and crude data models, nothing substantial. He wondered if Bolivar hadn't started researching the Sentinel robot yet, or if he hadn't yet produced a real thing. Wang Yunxiao preferred the latter, but it made sense. Dr. Teslak, perhaps you don't know yet, but Umbrella Biotech, a subsidiary of our group, also conducts research on mutants. Please follow me, Wang Yunxiao said with a smile. Without caring about Bolivar's thoughts, he led him directly to the biological laboratory. Inside, several large experimental chambers lay quietly occupied by mutants, all captured lately. A monitor nearby continuously displayed sets of research data. This is all. However, Bolivar's attention wasn't on the mutants. He was completely captivated by the sophisticated experimental equipment. Well, he did have good taste. These were all from the world of Resident Evil, decades ahead of this world. Mr. Wang, after his excitement faded, Bolivar's expression immediately became uncertain. A scientist of whose caliber was no fool. Naturally, he could imagine that Wang Yunxiao, who had exposed so many secrets to him, was definitely not going to let him go. Of course, Bolivar wasn't worried about his own safety. Wang Yunxiao's willingness to meet him and bring him here was naturally intended to win him over. However, this was completely different from what he'd expected. He simply wanted to secure investment, not work for the Umbrella Corporation. With over 1,000 subscriptions, we've added another chapter. We hope new and existing readers will continue to support this book. Please add it to your collection, subscribe, recommend it, and vote for it. Chapter 139 Grand Party. Why? Bolivar suddenly turned and looked at Wang Yunxiao, his eyes filled with confusion, reluctance, and even anger. Because you are a talent, a top talent, Wang Yunxiao replied seriously, his expression extremely serious. Should I feel honored? Bolivar pulled the corner of his mouth bitterly, looking like he had completely accepted his fate. But was that really the case? You don't have to have any lucky thoughts, you will soon join us willingly. Seeing Bolivar's big eyes moving from time to time, Wang Yunxiao smiled confidently, his whole body undergoing an astonishing transformation, sharp zombie fangs, emerald green vertical pupils. You too. Seeing this, Bolivar immediately froze in place, his eyes filled with deep fear and despair. He had never seen a zombie, let alone this mysterious creature from the ancient East, so it was not surprising that he mistook Wang Yunxiao for a mutant. The next moment, Wang Yunxiao appeared before Bolivar, crouching down and biting his neck, his sharp zombie fangs piercing his aorta. Bolivar's eyes widened, the fear and despair still lingering within him, but then they vanished, like a still, calm pool. Bolivar's face paled visibly, yet he felt no pain. His consciousness only grew increasingly hazy, and he threatened to pass out at any moment. Though he was the world's foremost scientist, he was still a mere human, no match for the four women. A drop of crystal-clear zombie blood, forced out by Wang Yunxiao, emanated a soft white light and drifted towards Bolivar's forehead, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Bolivar's already empty eyes grew even more dead, then clenched shut, completely devoid of life. So that's how it is. Over an hour later, Valipal suddenly opened his gray-brown pupils, a twinkle of understanding and curiosity, yet also bitterness. Although his bloodline memories had allowed him to understand many things, and he had a genuine sense of closeness and trust towards Wang Yunxiao, having just been transformed into a zombie, it was still difficult for him to fully adapt. Bolivar, from this moment on, we are the closest of family, Wang Yunxiao said affectionately, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Yes, the closest of family. It's been a long time since I've felt this way, Bolivar murmured softly, expressing endless emotion and heartache. Since childhood, his short stature had made him unacceptable to those around him, even his own family, shunning him. This had almost made him forget the feeling of genuine care, acceptance, and closeness. Don't overthink it. Everything will be fine. Come, drink this first. Wang Yun, sensing Bolivar's feelings, patted his shoulder gently, offering him silent comfort. He then took out Wolverine's blood and gestured for him to drink. Driven by instincts and driven by trust in Wang Yunxiao, Bolivar grabbed the special container and drank without hesitation. Roar! Bolivar roared to the sky, his gray-brown pupils rapidly turning amber-yellow, his aura growing even stronger. Fortunately, the biological laboratory was a sealed space, with far superior soundproofing than the manor's underground chamber. Thus, Bolivar's words remained hidden, otherwise who knows what kind of chaos would have occurred. This was, after all, the bustling city of Manhattan. After Bolivar had completed his third generation of zombie evolution, Wang Yunxiao learned through questioning that his strength was comparable to Charles. However, this didn't really matter to Wang Yunxiao. After all, what he valued most was Bolivar's brilliant brain and his extraordinary achievements in genetics. Next, you'll go with Charles to familiarize yourself with the environment here, and help him see if the super soldier serum can be further developed. Once Bolivar had adjusted to the surge of power within him, Wang Yunxiao instructed with a smile. Okay, Bolivar nodded slightly, not complaining at all. Of course, don't give up on the X gene either. Let's see if we can integrate it into the super soldier serum. As for the Sentinel robots, let's wait until our industrial park is built, then we can begin, Wang Yunxiao added after a moment's thought. No problem, Bolivar naturally had no objections, and was even quite pleased. At least Wang Yunxiao agreed with his research topic. Of course, he now knew that Selene and Emma were mutants, and he understood that completely eradicating mutants was impossible. By the way, come back early tonight to celebrate your joining our family, Wang Yunxiao gave Bolivar and Charles one last reminder before striding out of the lab. In the evening, when Wang Yunxiao and the others returned to the manor, Selene and Emma had already prepared a sumptuous banquet, and they wholeheartedly welcomed Bolivar. Regardless of their previous positions, they were now truly a family. That night, the nightclub, home to the Hellfire Club's headquarters, was particularly bustling. The halls and private rooms were already packed with a host of social elites. In the top-floor banquet hall, all the club's senior members were present, a first since the club's founding. The reason was simple. Selene's invitation had clearly stated that tonight's event would not only elect 2 new organizers, but also celebrate Howard Stark's induction. Well, even Wang Yunxiao had to admit that Howard's fame was greater than his, and his name was more effective. That was the essence of his legacy. Didn't you see that Howard's place had become the center of the whole party? Countless people surrounded him in 3 layers, all with anticipation on their faces, wanting to chat with this guy and get to know him. Tisk, he's really a guy who attracts bees and butterflies. How come I didn't realize that this guy is so attractive to men? Wang Yunxiao couldn't help complaining with a pout. I think you're just jealous. Selene glanced at Wang Yunxiao coquettishly, and together with Emma, they surrounded Wang Yunxiao on the left and right and walked towards Howard. I'm not. This is impossible, Wang Yunxiao decisively refused 3 times in a row. He would never admit it even if he was beaten to death. He was just jealous, huh? Seeing Wang Yunxiao like this, Emma couldn't help but let out a silver bell-like laughter. Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 140 Entering Hellfire. Ms. Galio, seeing Wang Yunxiao and the other two approach, everyone greeted Selene. Anyone who had achieved the status of a high-ranking member of the Hellfire Club knew her methods, and no one dared to underestimate her. Hello, Selene also greeted everyone with a smile, her manners elegant, her demeanor dignified yet charming, like a noble queen. Tisk, brother, you have excellent taste. Howard lowered his voice, his face filled with envy and jealousy. That's right, but you're not bad either, with your boundless charm, captivating both men and women. Wang Yunxiao raised an eyebrow with pride, teasing with a hint of sarcasm. Get lost, Howard immediately glared at Wang Yunxiao. Everyone, as Selene's voice rose slightly, the banquet hall seemed to have been silenced. Everyone stopped talking, and all eyes focused on her. For some time now, Zio's ambition and madness have put the club under considerable pressure. But times like these make it all the more important for us to work together to help the club out of its predicament. Selene's tone was calm, yet it evoked a certain conviction. This was due not only to her charm and her standing in the crowd's hearts, but also to her subtle manipulations. Fine, just subtle manipulations. They simply managed to resonate with the crowd, causing them to unconsciously agree with her words. This wasn't simply a matter of psychic power, it was Selene's masterful use of magic. There's an old Eastern saying, a snake cannot survive without a head. To swiftly lead the club out of its predicament, I, as the club organizer, propose that we elect 2 new organizers today. As soon as Selene finished speaking, everyone's eyes instinctively turned to Howard and Wang Yunxiao, standing side by side. Let me introduce you all. This beautiful lady beside me is Emma Grace Frost, the younger sister of Umbrella Corporation President Ada Wang. I propose that she be nominated as the club's organizer, codenamed White Queen. Do you have any objections? Selene solemnly introduced Emma's identity to everyone before loudly proposing. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment, but no one raised a voice in objection. While Selene's proposal differed from their expectations, not to mention their reluctance to offend Umbrella Corporation, Emma's status alone made her a natural fit for the Hellfire Club's organizer. While there were many senior members present, few truly held a higher position than Emma. These individuals, either well-informed or having been preemptively approached by Selene, knew that Emma had a great figure of Wang Yunxiao behind her, so they naturally acquiesced. Well, then, let me introduce you to another organizer, the legendary American superhero of World War II, the God of War, Wang Yunxiao. Selene nodded with satisfaction, turning the conversation back to Wang Yunxiao. It's him, is it really him? I can't believe he's still alive. Howard probably joined the club because of him. I heard they're very close friends. At this moment, everyone's curiosity could no longer be suppressed, and whispers broke out, their eyes brimming with curiosity as they looked at Wang Yunxiao. Although the US government had intentionally suppressed information about Wang Yunxiao's deeds, it was certainly no secret to those present. They had never met Wang Yunxiao in person, but now that they had, how could they not be curious? Wang Yunxiao smiled calmly, meeting the curious gazes with a confident demeanor, raising his glass to toast them from afar. Those guys are going to have a real headache this time. Tisk, Howard's playful, tinged with gloating, faintly rubbed off on Wang Yunxiao. Come to think of it, you're one of them, aren't you? Wang Yunxiao replied with a subtle glance at Howard. Tisk, Howard curled his lips, his expression of disdain evident. Since everyone agrees, from now on, Wang Yunxiao is the club's White Emperor, Selene declared with finality. Everyone raised their glasses, expressing great enthusiasm for Wang Yunxiao's election as the new organizer of the Hellfire Club. At least, that was the appearance. As the reception continued, people gathered around Wang Yunxiao and Howard, chatting familiarly, looking like old friends. Of course, the 2 beautiful women, Selene and Emma, were naturally surrounded by their fans. Mr. Stark isn't the club's organizer. What a shame, some seemed to be complaining to Howard, but how much sincerity was in their words, and what their real motives were, was a question only they knew. What do you know? Mr. Stark, as one of the founders of that special department called the Strategic National Defense Attack and Logistics Bureau, it was already a great honor for him to join the club, so how could he become the club's organizer? Naturally, some who saw through the situation retorted with disdain. Having finally dealt with the enthusiastic crowd, Wang Yunxiao and Howard both headed towards a deserted corner. Those who wanted to approach and chatted tactfully stopped. "Honestly, brother, perhaps you should really consider joining our Strategic National Defense Attack and Logistics Bureau. It could save you a lot of trouble," Howard said earnestly, clinking glasses with Wang Yunxiao. "What? Are you lobbying for Peggy? Or, after all these years, you still can't forget her?" Wang Yunxiao glanced at Howard and teased him jokingly. "Tisk. It's all in the past, why bring it up again? Don't you know that I've found my other half?" Howard shrugged and replied unhappily. "Perhaps I should feel sorry for Mrs. Stark for falling in love with a playboy like you." Wang Yunxiao looked at Howard with a look full of contempt. "Get out. I'm talking to you about serious matters," Howard cursed with a smile, and hurriedly tried to get the topic back on track. "You know, I really don't want to face those people's nasty faces again." Wang Yunxiao spread his hands, his face full of disapproval. "We are different. Hey, brother, listen to me, we are directly under the World Security Council, and those people you mentioned have no control over us," Howard argued. "Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote for me." Chapter 141 Security Consultant. What's the difference? Aren't they all just a bunch of bureaucrats? Wang Yunxiao was unimpressed by Howard's argument. Howard was truly speechless. Honestly, there were times when he couldn't stand the scorn of the World Security Council, so he simply left it to Peggy to deal with. "How about becoming our security advisor?" Howard thought for a moment, still refusing to give up. Wang Yunxiao remained silent, only looking at Howard strangely. "What are you looking at?" "Okay, just think of it as helping a brother, that's alright." Howard felt uneasy under Wang Yunxiao's gaze, and took a sip of his red wine with a guilty look. "Okay," Wang Yunxiao finally relented, reluctantly agreeing. "Thanks, brother." "Cheers." Howard was overjoyed, and with a beaming smile, he clinked his glasses with Wang Yunxiao and downed the wine in one gulp. He wondered what Peggy had said to him, or what evidence she had on him. However, what Howard didn't know was that even if he didn't mention it, Wang Yunxiao would have actively sought an opportunity to join SHIELD. Reducing unnecessary trouble was only one aspect. The most important thing was that the Tesseract was still in their possession. Security advisor was the position that suited him best. It offered a prestigious title without requiring him to actually do anything for them. Great. Wang Yunxiao was eyeing the Tesseract again. With his advancement to a second-generation zombie, he had clearly felt his special abilities were inadequate. Honestly, in terms of special abilities alone, his telekinesis wasn't even as good as the Red Devil's. Furthermore, Wang Yunxiao knew full well that SHIELD still had many valuable treasures, such as the mysterious item codenamed 084. Furthermore, there was someone within SHIELD whom Wang Yunxiao had considered recruiting as early as World War II, but the timing wasn't right at the time. SHIELD acted swiftly, delivering all the necessary paperwork and credentials to Wang Yunxiao the very next day. The benefits of becoming SHIELD's security advisor quickly became apparent. From that day on, no one from the various U.S. government departments ever again troubled the Umbrella Corporation or the Hellfire Club. Furthermore, with Wang Yunxiao's identity widely exposed to the American upper class, and Howard's joining, the Hellfire Club's troubles were quickly overcome and a wave of new members joined, including a significant number of core senior members, all connected to Wang Yunxiao and Howard. This delighted Selene and Emma immensely. After all, for an international social club like the Hellfire Club, the number of members, especially senior members, directly impacts its power and influence. Furthermore, Wang Yunxiao and the others were puzzled by the fact that Eric remained silent in the days that followed, seemingly giving up completely. But that was fine, less trouble was better. Wang Yunxiao really didn't want to get too deeply involved with mutants right now. Hadn't he noticed that he hadn't contacted Charles and the other X-Men, even once, for a while? Wang Yunxiao's entire focus was on SHIELD, but he knew better than to rush into anything. Otherwise, he'd risk losing more than he gained. Not only would he gain nothing, but he'd also ruin the current situation. First, Howard frequented the Hellfire Club 4 or 5 days a week, needing no guidance from Wang Yunxiao. It was simply the playboy's nature. This made the Hellfire Club a bustling place every night. Furthermore, many major deals were struck in this manner, benefiting numerous members and, naturally, the Umbrella Corporation as well. What pleased Wang Yunxiao most was that the Umbrella Corporation had allocated a large tract of land at Bush Wharf in Brooklyn to develop its own industrial park. Ada Wang had already contacted the largest construction company in the U.S., and planned to complete the initial phase of the Umbrella Industrial Park within 3 years. Why was it still only a preliminary phase after so long? That was simply because Wang Yunxiao harbored even greater ambitions. He planned to construct a base beneath the industrial park, even more fortified than the Umbrella Corporation's Hive underground base in the Resident Evil universe. This would inevitably require a longer time frame and greater financial, physical, and human resources. While other aspects were fine, Wang Yunxiao intended to use no outsiders for the construction of the industrial park's underground base, for the sake of maximum secrecy and security. This would require the Umbrella Corporation to further expand its operations, perhaps even establishing its own armed forces. Perhaps, waiting for the Sentinel robots to be completed would be a good option. If Bolivar knew about this, he would probably burst into tears. The Sentinel robots he painstakingly developed were ultimately being used as laboring construction workers? Only Wang Yunxiao could pull off such a tactic. Of course, even the initial surface area of the industrial park was undoubtedly inferior to those of other consortiums. After all, the facade still needed to be polished. Then, Wang Yunxiao would occasionally make a grand appearance at SHIELD. After all, he was now SHIELD security advisor. He couldn't just sit there and do nothing, or even show up. Over time, Wang Yunxiao became a familiar face at SHIELD, from Director Peggy to the front desk lady. Unfortunately, Wang Yunxiao still couldn't access SHIELD's secrets. Not only could he not obtain the mysterious artifact codenamed 086 or the top-secret cosmic cube, but he couldn't even meet the person he sought to recover. That person was Arnim Zola, Hydra's chief scientist during World War II and a capable lieutenant to the Red Skull. Speaking of this man, it's worth mentioning that the U.S. government, and even the later World Security Council, were truly greedy. They were willing to take anyone they could find to secure Hydra's scientific research, and Dr. Zola was naturally the first to bear the brunt of the attack. Dr. Zola, indeed, lived up to expectations, personally orchestrating the infamous Operation Paperclip, which allowed Hydra to resurrect through SHIELD and nearly annihilate the agency. Despite setbacks, Wang Yunxiao remained unfazed, patiently waiting for the perfect opportunity. Thanks to King Wu for her 2 guaranteed monthly passes. 3 updates are here today. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 142 Reactor Incident. The first floor of the nightclub was bustling with blasting music, red wine, and beautiful women. Howard had reserved the entire place for a large party tonight. Hellfire Club members were in attendance, but most were his friends. Howard, wineglass in hand, weaved through the crowd, surrounded by beautiful women, his face flushed and his demeanor unrestrained. Howard was incredibly happy today. After years of tireless effort, the reactor technology had finally matured and was about to be operational. This would undoubtedly establish the Stark Corporation at the pinnacle of the energy sector and represent a major advancement in human energy technology. Hey, buddy, why don't you come join us? Why are you all here to chill out? Howard asked, grinning, finding Wang Yunxiao in the corner, cuddling Emma and puffing away a cigarette. Do you think everyone's like you? Can't keep their eyes off a beautiful woman. Wang Yunxiao glanced at Howard and blew a giant smoke ring at him. Tisk. You don't have enough beauties around you, Howard muttered softly. After all these years of getting along, he knew only too well that Emma was a girl to be trifled with. Then, he picked up a cut cigar from the table, sat down on Wang Yunxiao's other side, and began to smoke as well. The beautiful women who had always surrounded Howard tactfully left, not daring to bother the 3 of them again. I say, don't just be so happy, think about what to do next, Wang Yunxiao asked sternly, shaking her head slightly. Everything is in my head, they can't get it. Even so, Howard's brows furrowed slightly, a subtle flicker of worry in his eyes. While the maturity of reactor technology would undoubtedly benefit both Stark Industries and Howard himself, there were undoubtedly many who were eyeing it, including the U.S. government. Really? From what I understand, you have a partner named Anthony Vanko, who's also involved throughout this whole process, Wang Yunxiao said disapprovingly. Anthony wouldn't. Howard was only halfway through his sentence when he couldn't continue. He suddenly realized that Anthony's behavior had indeed been very wrong recently. Think about it, Wang Yunxiao patted Howard's shoulder, extinguished the remaining cigar in his hand, and stood up and left with Emma in his arms, leaving Howard alone. Amidst the smoke, Howard's eyes flickered, lost in deep thought. He was in no mood for any more playful moments. Wang Yunxiao had thought that after his warning, there would be no more trouble at Stark Industries. But just 3 days later, news came that Howard had been attacked and seriously injured in the hospital. How could this be possible? Howard was not only a major capitalist, but also one of the founders of SHIELD. How strong could the security forces surrounding him, both visible and invisible, be? Someone had actually managed to successfully attack him. When Wang Yunxiao first heard the news, he almost thought he'd misheard. After a detailed phone call with Peggy, Wang Yunxiao realized that everything was ultimately his fault. It was Wang Yunxiao's warning that led Howard to confront Anthony directly, but not only did the two fail to reach an agreement, but a violent conflict ensued. The public claimed that Howard had been attacked was merely a pretext. Many other people were involved in this, including the US government. Hey, are you dead? You're such a loser. Anthony's been reduced to this state. In a high-end ward at a SHIELD hospital, not open to the public, Wang Yunxiao saw Howard, bandaged like a dumpling, and was speechless. Get lost. Do you have any compassion? Fortunately, his severe injuries didn't affect Howard's ability to speak normally, and he immediately retorted angrily. I think you're so weak and frail from lack of exercise. Also, if you were already suspicious of him, why were you so foolish as to go and negotiate with him alone? What kind of person are you? Don't you have any sense? Wang Yunxiao wasn't going to let Howard go. He launched into another barrage of rants. Howard was speechless. It wasn't that he didn't want to fight back, but Wang Yunxiao didn't even give him a chance to interrupt. Tell me, what are your plans for this follow-up? After a long pause, Wang Yunxiao, seemingly tired of talking, finally got down to business. Don't worry, Anthony doesn't have the core formulas. They're all in my head, and no one can take them away. Hey, Howard chuckled smugly, like a child stealing candy. That way, that guy's life is saved, isn't it? Wang Yunxiao frowned slightly, his eyes flashing a chilling light. Hey, don't do anything rash. This is really complicated. Peggy's already negotiating. I'm sure it won't be long before Anthony is exiled to Siberia for espionage. Howard, naturally perceiving Wang Yunxiao's intentions, was deeply moved and quickly offered his advice. Just let him go? Beware of even greater trouble in the future. Wang Yunxiao raised an eyebrow and couldn't help but advise. Wang Yunxiao knew perfectly well that while Anthony might not cause any trouble in the future, his genes were no match for his superiority. The supervillain Ivan Whiplash-Venko, a genius, had truly troubled Stark Industries and even Iron Man Tony Stark, nearly escaping his demise. Forget it, we've been friends for over a decade. Without him, reactor technology wouldn't have been developed so quickly. Howard relented, thus sowing the seeds of trouble for his unborn son. Whatever you say. Wang Yunxiao spread his hands, refusing to offer further advice. Since Howard, the person involved, didn't want to delve into the matter any further, he naturally wouldn't make trouble for himself. You know, Anthony is now being watched by various forces. Maybe it wouldn't be difficult to kill him, but the aftermath would definitely be extremely troublesome. Okay, I'll come see you again in a few days. Have a good rest. The two chatted for a while, and then Wang Yunxiao got up and said goodbye. Hey, don't forget. It's so boring to stay in this damn place. After walking out of the ward, Howard's complaints were still faintly heard behind him. Wang Yunxiao's mouth curled up slightly, and he walked towards the elevator on his own, but when passing a ward, he accidentally caught a glimpse of the figure in the ward, which made him stop in his tracks. Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote for me. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143 Industrial Park completed. Long time no see, Dr. Zora. Pushing open the ward door, Wang Yunxiao strode in, his eyes glittering with a strange glint. Yes. In the ward was none other than Arnim Zora, the man Wang Yunxiao had been pining for all this time. Truly a case of searching high and low for the right person, yet finding him effortlessly. It's you, Dr. Zora's pupils constricted upon seeing it was actually Wang Yunxiao. Tisk, cancer? Is this karma? He said mockingly, picking up the medical records hanging at the foot of the bed. HMPH. Please leave. You're not welcome here. Dr. Zora's face darkened, and he issued an expiation in a harsh tone. As SHIELD's chief scientist, he felt confident enough to do anything to Wang Yunxiao. Don't be so heartless. We're old friends after all. After all, we're colleagues now, haha. Wang Yunxiao smirked. Dr. Zora's face darkened even further, and he turned away, opting for non-violent non-cooperation. We'll see you again, Dr. Zora. Wang Yunxiao didn't dwell on it further, leaving behind this profound remark before turning and leaving the ward. He was also concerned about alerting the enemy, perhaps even attracting the attention of SHIELD. Now that he had met the real culprit, everything would be easier, and the previous preparations could begin. However, after the incident with Howard, Wang Yunxiao had developed a sense of caution, realizing that the changes caused by his butterfly wings wouldn't always play out as he hoped. This would make him more cautious, careful, and well-planned in his future actions. Speaking of which, it's worth mentioning that it's already 1967. According to historical trajectory, a company should have been founded this year, one that would have a profound impact on the future of the world, especially mutant-kind, Tesla Industries. However, with Bolivar now joining Wang Yunxiao's small group, how could Tesla Industries possibly exist? I just don't know whether this will have a positive or negative impact on the future. For a while, Wang Yunxiao remained invisible to the outside world, neither within the Umbrella Corporation nor within the Hellfire Club. Meanwhile, Wang Yunxiao had quietly arrived in the Resident Evil universe with two leading scientists, Charles and Bolivar. Their goal was to create another clone, a clone of Dr. Zora. As for where Dr. Zora's genetic samples would come from, that hospital certainly wouldn't be short of them. Although he'd already learned about the Resident Evil world from Charles, Bolivar, experiencing this alien dimension for the first time, was still incredibly astonished, especially when he saw the technology that was decades ahead of the Marvel Universe. Even after creating Dr. Zora's clone, Bolivar wanted to stay longer, but Wang Yunxiao ruthlessly refused. He couldn't bear to leave Bolivar alone in this apocalyptic world. If anything went wrong, he'd be left with nothing to cry about. No one knew what had happened to this world. Although Umbrella had been largely wiped out, the zombie crisis hadn't been contained, it was actually intensifying, with new enemies appearing. However, Alice and the others hadn't spent all these years in vain. Humanity's crisis had long since been alleviated, and they had built several massive fortresses, allowing them to stand firm in this apocalyptic world and continue their arduous struggle. Back in the Marvel Universe, Wang Yunxiao rushed to the hospital, only to be met with a stern rebuke from Howard. Howard had assumed he'd gone to cause trouble for Anthony. After finally dealing with Howard, Wang Yunxiao finally had the chance to inquire about Dr. Zola, only to be told he'd been discharged days earlier. Was he deliberately avoiding him, or was he seizing the final opportunity to continue his important project? Wang Yunxiao wasn't overly disappointed, he'd been prepared. He simply couldn't believe Dr. Zola wouldn't even come back for a follow-up check. He only hoped Howard would be discharged later, otherwise he wouldn't have such a good excuse to go to the hospital all day. Well, I wondered what Howard, the person involved, would feel upon learning of Wang Yunxiao's intentions. Unfortunately, Wang Yunxiao was ultimately disappointed. Months passed in the blink of an eye. Howard had recovered from his injuries and been released, but Dr. Zora hadn't visited the hospital even once. Wang Yunxiao had no other options, so he had to find another solution. After consulting with Selene, he found an opportunity to have her directly control several nurses at the hospital, allowing her to keep them informed at all times. This proved to be a simple task for Selene. Furthermore, since her methods involved not only psychic abilities but also magic, even Charles, a master of mind control, would be unable to detect any flaws. This was precisely why Wang Yunxiao chose not to let Emma take action. And so, another year passed unnoticed, and the Umbrella Industrial Park was now largely complete. The Mobile Communications Lab, Factory Buildings, Mobile Communications Systems Lab, Pharmaceutical Lab, and Medical Equipment Lab were all relocated to the Industrial Park. Charles and Bolivar's biological laboratories were immediately moved in. However, their current research focus would be on the X gene and the development of the Sentinel robots. In fact, They had already devoted the vast majority of their efforts to the X gene 6 months earlier. However, integrating the X gene into the super soldier serum proved utterly impossible. It's worth noting that the industrial park's security system is truly world-class. Today, the security department under Lane's command is a far cry from what it once was. Every soldier in the Special Forces team has not only undergone grueling training, tempered by blood and fire, but has also been fully inoculated with a new super soldier serum. With just over 1,000 men, they are more than capable of sustaining a small-scale campaign and achieving victory. Even Howard, after visiting the Umbrella Industrial Park, was full of praise. He'd been pestering Wang Yunxiao for days to install a similar security system for his own industrial park, but Wang Yunxiao had ruthlessly refused. What a joke. Wang Yunxiao couldn't even keep up with his own manpower, and construction on the underground base hadn't even begun, so how could he possibly care about Howard? Well, only he would be tempted to use these elite soldiers as laborers. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 144, The Matter is Over and I Leave. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the end of the year. With a phone call, Wang Yunxiao's relatively peaceful life came to an end. Fortunately, the caller was one of the nurses controlled by Selene. They announced that Dr. Zora had secretly come to the hospital for a follow-up check that afternoon and would not leave tonight. Wang Yunxiao, unwilling to wait any longer, gathered Ada Wang, Lane, Emma, and Selene that evening. To ensure the success of the operation, he had Charles and Bolivar prepare a simple device equipped with a subsystem of the White Queen to hack into the hospital's security system. Unfortunately, the Red Queen hadn't been built yet, as neither Charles nor Bolivar were experts in the field. While a forced effort was possible, the effectiveness was far from guaranteed. If they ended up being inferior to the White Queen clone, that would be a real problem. However, it was coming soon. Perhaps after tonight, the opportunity to build the Red Queen would present itself. Their target, Dr. Zora, was truly an expert in this field. Of course, simply hacking the hospital's security system, even just the White Queen's subsystem, was a massive overkill. Late at night, Wang Yunxiao and his companions, all dressed in black nightgowns, quietly left the manor and headed straight for the hospital. To leave no loopholes, they didn't even use any transportation. As a hospital directly under SHIELD, its security was naturally impeccable, with SHIELD agents in charge. With the arrival of a prominent figure like Dr. Zola, security measures were heightened several notches. However, not only was Wang Yunxiao already familiar with the security system, but among them were Ada Wang, a former master of the secret services, and Rain, a true expert in security after nearly a decade of hard work. Under the hazy moonlight, the group split up. Ada Wang and Selene were tasked with infiltrating the control room, while Lane and Emma eliminated the security guards along the route. Naturally, Wang Yunxiao was pulling another covert move, his target now Dr. Zora. Just a few minutes later, Wang Yunxiao had silently appeared in Dr. Zora's hospital room. Under the dim nightlight, he looked rather intimidating in his black suit and mask. "It's you, Dr. Zora," still awake, recognized Wang Yunxiao instantly. Wang Yunxiao raised a finger to his lips, his meaning clear. Dr. Zora's words faltered, his eyes gleaming with fear and disbelief. He couldn't believe Wang Yunxiao had actually dared to attack him. Then, as Dr. Zora stared in horror, a figure who looked exactly like him suddenly appeared before him. Wang Yunxiao grinned silently, yet in Dr. Zora's eyes, it looked hideous and terrifying. A flash of cold light vanished, and the man's throat was deeply slashed. It took a long moment for a trickle of blood to ooze out. A strange gurgling sound escaped his mouth, and his eyes widened. Someone, come here." Dr. Zora was utterly terrified. His intense desire to survive made him want to scream for help, but then his vision went black. Wang Yunxiao had already stored the clone in his personal storage. He calmly laid the clone on the bed, carefully cleaned up the scene, and then silently left the ward. Outside the hospital, the group arrived at their previously agreed rendezvous point almost simultaneously, their coordination seamless. Not only were they all present in the manor's underground secret room, but Charles and Bolivar were also waiting there. They were all deeply curious about this new companion, the one Wang Yunxiao so highly praised. "Where is this? What are you doing, Dr. Zora?" Having just been released, immediately locked eyes with Wang Yunxiao and shouted in fear. "Don't be nervous, I'm saving you." Wang Yunxiao smiled faintly, his entire being undergoing a dramatic transformation. Sharp zombie fangs, emerald green pupils, and a terrifying menacing aura lingered around him. "Damn it, you monster!" Dr. Zora retreated in terror, but the chamber was so small, where could he retreat to? "Soon, you'll be one of us," Wang Yunxiao muttered softly, then bit down on Dr. Zora's neck. Over an hour later, Dr. Zora's gray-brown pupils suddenly opened, and he looked at Wang Yunxiao with a complicated expression. He was afraid that he would have a hard time adjusting to this new identity for a while. Unlike Bolivar, although both were forced to join, he and Wang Yunxiao had been enemies, not friends, before. Wang Yunxiao, however, was unconcerned. He believed that, drawn by his bloodline, Dr. Zola would eventually accept his new identity and join their ranks. Later, Wang Yunxiao used Wolverine's blood to help Dr. Zola ascend to a third-generation zombie, then had Charles and Bolivar take him away, believing that as two of the world's top scientists, they would find it easier to accept each other. SHIELD was already in turmoil. Peggy, Howard, and other SHIELD executives, still asleep, were summoned in the middle of the night and rushed to the ward where the accident occurred. Gazing upon Dr. Zola's cold body on the bed, the SHIELD brace felt a burning pain in their faces. This was a blatant insult to them. Imagine their chief scientist assassinated in their own hospital ward. It wouldn't be long before they became the laughingstock of many. Even more amusing, Wang Yunxiao had even left a Hydra symbol in his wake. Peggy had to treat this with extreme caution. Was this truly a Hydra conspiracy? Or was someone else motivated by ulterior motives? After all, Hydra had been silent for nearly 20 years. As for the Hydra members lurking within SHIELD, they were even more paranoid, fearing their identities would be exposed. After over 20 hours of work, they hadn't found a single clue, which was even more unacceptable. They had suspected Dr. Zola's body, but after further investigation, every piece of data confirmed it was Dr. Zola herself, even the cancerous cells within. Meanwhile, Wang Yunxiao, the instigator of this whole thing, had once again vanished from everyone's sight. Thanks to book friends 122,942,587,737, AINI, and Zijian for their guaranteed monthly votes. Tomorrow will begin the storyline of Underworld, for no other reason than Kate Beckinsale's stunning beauty in it, a dream come true for Jun Zhao. Also, why did Jun Zhao elevate the overall combat power of Underworld? The three vampire elders are roughly equivalent to second-generation zombies. 3 updates today. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 145 Moonlight Goddess. Click, as Wang Yunxiao left a mysterious space, he found himself on a speeding subway. SHIELD was in a state of panic, and Wang Yunxiao, the instigator, had leisurely left the Marvel Universe and once again engaged in dimension traveling. If those people knew, they would surely be murderous. This time, Wang Yunxiao chose the smaller, brighter nebula within the mysterious space, so even he didn't know what kind of world he was in. The next stop arrived, and the subway slowly pulled up. Wang Yunxiao strode out, scanning the platform with a searching gaze, but he didn't gain much useful information. Suddenly, a deep roar exploded in Wang Yunxiao's ears, startling him from the contemplation of his next move. Da-da-da, bang, bang bang, then, a fierce exchange of gunfire ensued, bullets flying everywhere, and innocent pedestrians were occasionally injured, screaming and falling to the ground. Damn! What kind of luck is this? Wang Yunxiao was speechless. After muttering silently, he dodged behind a pillar. He discovered someone was already hiding there. No. It wasn't hiding, it was more of a strategic evasion. Did he see she was clutching a gleaming silver pistol in each hand? Hi, Wang Yunxiao awkwardly greeted, only to be completely ignored, further embarrassment. But then, Wang Yunxiao's eyes froze, fixed unblinking on her stunning face, unable to move even a fraction. What particularly captivated him were her jewel-like blue eyes, their distinct black and white pupils resembling a crescent moon in the sky. His gaze slowly shifted downward. Her tight black leather ensemble accentuated her already curvaceous figure. Dressed similarly, she radiated a completely different allure and mystery than Selene. Instead, she exuded a uniquely sexy and heroic demeanor. Selena. Moonlight goddess Selena, the name suddenly popped up in Wang Yunxiao's mind. He had seen countless beautiful women in leather jackets and pants, but only this moonlight goddess held such a fascination for him. This also gave Wang Yunxiao a preliminary idea of what kind of world this place was. Bang, 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 as if sensing Wang Yunxiao's intense gaze, Selena's brows furrowed slightly, and in a flash, she leaped from the pillar, her two guns alternately spewing tiny flashes of fire. Wang Yunxiao, feeling anxious, quickly peered over to see that Selena had already hidden behind another pillar, which reassured him. But the next moment, another figure caught Wang Yunxiao's attention. This time, it wasn't a beautiful woman, but a tall, burly black man, armed with two submachine guns, their muzzles spitting flames, chasing his target relentlessly. Raz. Nicknamed Big Black by many fans, he was the strongest and most valiant warrior of the wolf tribe, even comparable to their leader, Luciet, though a bit less intelligent. Well, Wang Yunxiao was now completely certain that this was the world of Underworld, a dark age where vampires and werewolves coexisted, fighting each other for centuries. It's worth noting that this dark age only applies to the vampire and werewolf races. Humans were still the true masters of this world, and their high-tech weapons were more than capable of inflicting fatal damage on both races, not to mention their distinct weaknesses. Vampires were sensitive to ultraviolet light, and werewolves were sensitive to silver. Now, the two races could only cautiously hide in the darkness, fighting and attacking each other while carefully avoiding revealing their whereabouts. Soon, the man being pursued by Raz screamed and fell to the ground, his sharp vampire fangs bared uncontrollably. Threads of purple light emanated from his body, and he was completely reduced to ash. Sure enough, it was a vampire. Bang, 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 the tragic death of her companion ignited Selena's fury. A barrage of bullets lashed out at Raz, forcing him to dodge. Holy shit, this works. While admiring the goddess's heroic presence, Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but vent his frustrations. Well, this scene was truly unrealistic. Who else had ever seen a pistol fire the same rapid-fire bursts as a submachine gun? How would the submachine gun handle that? The next moment, a werewolf and a vampire joined the fray, disrupting Selena's attack and giving Raz the chance to regroup and even transform into a werewolf. Raz, transformed into a werewolf, tore the vampire to pieces. Meanwhile, Selena chased another werewolf, their heads twitching as they fled. In the process, they both plunged into the sewers. Wang Yunxiao, needless to say, saw no point in watching two men shouting at each other. He had already followed Selena into the sewers. Selena didn't disappoint Wang Yunxiao, decisively kicking the werewolf to the ground. Then, aiming her sharp pistol at the werewolf's head, she fired a series of shots, blasting the werewolf's skull apart. It was truly stunning. Who are you? Why are you following me? Selena spun around, her eyes fixed on Wang Yunxiao with a wary gaze, her gun pointed at him. Don't misunderstand me, I mean no harm. Wang Yunxiao spread his hands, smiling at her, trying to appear sincere. However, it seemed to be no use. Don't follow me anymore. After a long pause, heavy, rapid footsteps echoed from the depths of the sewers. Selena finally said this coldly and turned away at a swift pace. Trust me, we'll see each other soon. Watching Selena's retreating figure, Wang Yunxiao stopped following, his eyes flickering with a strange light. Selena had been tracking him all along, and after struggling to drive Raz away, she'd vaguely discovered the wolf pack's gathering place. Meanwhile, after leaving the sewers, Wang Yunxiao also set about his own business. His first priority was to resolve his identity. After obtaining some cash from a few clueless thugs, Wang Yunxiao found a remote, unremarkable internet cafe. With the money, he booked a private room. A few hours later, when Wang Yunxiao left the cafe, his identity and financial problems had been easily resolved with the help of White Queen. Truth be told, this world's internet was still in its primitive stages, completely unable to withstand White Queen's invasion, even if he only brought with him a subsystem. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 146: The Grudge Between the Two Clans. Through White Queen's cyber intrusion, Wang Yunxiao not only easily resolved his identity and financial problems but also gained a general understanding of this world. Overall, this world's economy and technology are comparable to those of the Marvel Universe in the 1970s and 1980s, but its development of firearms far surpasses other technologies, almost approaching the level of the Resident Evil universe. This, admittedly, is the result of a flawed technology tree. Otherwise, how could a pistol rival a submachine gun? More importantly, through White Queen's cyber tracking, Wang Yunxiao also found traces of Amelia. Amelia is one of the 3 great elders of the vampire clan, having survived for over 1,400 years. Her immense power is undoubtedly immense, and she should provide a wealth of nutrients for the evolution of his zombie bloodline. Speaking of which, the vampire clan of this world is truly bizarre. Despite the existence of 3 great elders, only one reigns at any given time, while the other 2 remain dormant, rotating every millennium. Otherwise, not only would they rule the world, but their sworn enemy, the Wolf Clan, would have been nearly wiped out long ago. During this period, Amelia reigned, but her time was drawing to a close. She would soon fall into deep slumber, leaving Victor, another vampire elder, to rule. Wang Yunxiao's goal was to find Amelia before she fell asleep, allowing her to become the nourishment for his own zombie bloodline's evolution. While she was a stunning beauty, possessing breathtaking charm, Wang Yunxiao had never considered transforming her into his own descendant. She had been Victor's mistress for over 1,400 years, and she was no slut willing to succumb to loneliness. Furthermore, from what Wang Yunxiao knew, or according to the original plot, even without his intervention, Amelia would have soon perished at Raz's hands. The night was dark and windy, dark clouds obscuring the bright moonlight. On one side of the train station platform, a row of men in black suits and sunglasses stood neatly lined up, as if awaiting the arrival of some important figure. It was nighttime, otherwise they would never have dared to display such a grand display. Well, those men in sunglasses were all vampires, from Victor's lineage. They'd staged such a grand ceremony simply to welcome Amelia, perform Victor's awakening ritual, and hand over power to the vampire clan. Woo, woo, with a resounding whistle, a train slowly pulled up to the platform. Inside the luxurious carriage, there were no other passengers besides Amelia and her lineage. Well, this was truly an extraordinary display. While others chartered cars or planes, she'd booked the entire train. Flashlights flashed repeatedly on the platform and in the train's cockpit, a prearranged signal confirming everything was operating smoothly. Amelia, now dressed in a luxurious evening gown, swung her voluptuous figure, and walked with a swift, unwavering gait as she moved through the train cars. Behind her followed a line of dapper vampires, her aura truly regal. Bang, bang, bang. However, before Amelia could even step off the train, a dull thud suddenly erupted from the ceiling above her head, accompanied by a series of shrill wolf howls. Without even needing Amelia's orders, the vampires immediately positioned themselves in the center, their weapons drawn, and their surroundings vigilantly monitored. Crash! The next moment, the windows on both sides of the train shattered, and one after another, furry werewolves rushed in. Da-da-da! A flurry of gunfire rang out, some werewolves attacking, some vampires fiercely counterattacking. However, the silver bullets fired from the vampires' guns, while capable of inflicting considerable damage to the werewolves, were unlikely to inflict immediate and effective damage. Conversely, the werewolves were armed with the latest firearms, firing the latest generation liquid ultraviolet bullets, which would inflict severe injuries on the vampires, if not fatal. As the vampires fell in droves, reduced to dusty clouds, the werewolves, suffering few casualties, still managed to fight. Their numerical disadvantage now neutralized, the werewolves used their razor-sharp teeth and claws to tear each vampire to shreds at close range, creating a bloody spectacle. Throughout, the vampires of Victor's lineage on the platform took no action, let alone offer any assistance. They simply watched as the casualties mounted. This infuriated Amelia, who harbored a deep hatred for her former lover. Little did Amelia know that even Victor was in the dark about this whole thing. It was all orchestrated by Craven, Victor's trusted confidant and the vampire hero who had personally slain the Wolf Clan leader, Lucian, centuries before. Lucian had never been killed by Craven, it had been a secret conspiracy between the two from the beginning. Of course, both men had their own agendas. Craven's ambitions were no longer content with merely serving as Vickers' second-in-command, he aspired to become the vampire elder, perhaps even the sole elder. As for Lucian, he naturally aspired to lead the werewolves to rise, and most importantly, to seek revenge against Victor. The hatred between Lucian and Victor was truly unforgettable. Over 800 years ago, the vampire and werewolf tribes were utterly different. Vampires were almost human-like, rational and intelligent, with a strict organization like a vast empire. Meanwhile, werewolves lacked a leader and were unable to transform into human form. They were like wild beasts, furious and violent, instinctively attacking both humans and vampires. Consequently, the vampires maintained their dominance, forcing captured werewolves to serve as slaves, guarding their homes. This was especially true during the day, as werewolves were not afraid of ultraviolet light. It was under these circumstances that the first werewolf with human nature emerged from among the werewolf slaves, Lucian. Unlike other werewolves, Lucia transformed only in moonlight, possessing both strength and rationality. Victor, the ruling vampire elder at the time, didn't outright kill Lucia, this unique werewolf variant. Instead, he allowed him to infect more humans, creating more rational werewolves. Wasn't this the catalyst for the rise of the werewolf race? As the first rational werewolf, Lucia was strong and intelligent, repeatedly saving Victor's daughter, Sonia, from the clutches of irrational werewolves. Consequently, Lucia and Sonia fell in love. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 147 arrived in time. As a slave, Lucian, especially given Victor's deep-seated contempt for the Wolf clan, was absolutely forbidden to have a relationship with Sonia. It was a taboo. Since there was no impenetrable wall, their relationship could not be concealed for long, and they ultimately faced Victor's wrath. Thus, for Sonia's sake, Lucian was forced to embark on a path of rebellion against the vampire empire. Furthermore, as leader of the Wolf clan, he shouldered the mission of saving the enslaved Wolf clan. Ultimately, Lucian failed, watching helplessly as his beloved Sonia was blasted to ashes by ultraviolet light before his eyes. It must be said that Victor was truly heartless, even to the point of killing his own daughter. However, Lucian was not completely defeated. He led the Wolf clan out of the vampire empire's enslavement, truly embarking on the path of resistance against the vampire clan and gaining the courage to stand up to them. Regardless, the blood feud between Lucian and Victor was entrenched. The battle between werewolves and vampires on the train continued. Seeing her dwindling numbers, Amelia finally took action. With a single wave of her hand, a towering werewolf was ripped in two, her brutality rivaling those of the other werewolves. Another fierce, whip-like kick ripped another werewolf's head apart like a watermelon, splattering red and white everywhere. Dots of blood splattered onto Amelia's beautiful face, adding a touch of ferocity. As one of the three elders of the vampire clan, she was no mere figurehead, her strength was undeniably top tier. "Captain, should we take action?" someone whispered in the ear of the leading vampire captain on the platform. "Are you crazy? Attack? Who should we attack?" The vampire captain nearly fainted with rage. Standing by and watching would be fine, as there would always be plenty of excuses to make later. But if he attacked Amelia directly, once word leaked, the vampire clan would have no place left. Not even their boss, Craven, could protect them. "Let's retreat." This also served as a reminder to the vampire captain. Crucially, he hadn't anticipated Amelia's brutality. He simply chose to turn a blind eye and quickly evacuate with the other vampires. Amelia knew what was happening on the platform, but she was currently surrounded by several werewolves and couldn't focus on this. As the saying goes, two fists can't beat two hands, but that doesn't necessarily apply if the power disparity is too great. In this situation, Amelia was proving it to everyone. She brutally slaughtered werewolf after werewolf, seemingly tireless. As the number of werewolves besieging Amelia dwindled, the other werewolves, having finally dispatched all the vampires, immediately turned their guns on her. The tide of battle shifted in an instant. No matter how skilled Amelia was, she couldn't overcome her vampire vulnerability to ultraviolet light. To avoid being hit by the liquid ultraviolet bullets, she was forced to focus most of her energy on dodging, which naturally made her increasingly vulnerable to the werewolves' ferocious attacks. In fact, Amelia had opportunities to escape, but her pride kept her from being forced into a desperate struggle by the werewolves she despised the most. When she truly felt her death was imminent and attempted to flee, the werewolf leader, Raz, joined the fray, completely denying her the opportunity. Swish, swish, swish. Seeing Amelia's imminent defeat, the sharp flashes of sharp blades flashed one after another, and in a matter of seconds, all the gunfire ceased, as if paused. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the werewolves, all with their heads torn apart. A strange man had suddenly appeared in the carriage. Though he didn't know who this newcomer was, friend or foe, it still lifted Amelia's spirits. She immediately switched from defense to offense, intensifying her attack. This sudden arrival was none other than Wang Yunxiao, who had just arrived. At that moment, he felt incredibly fortunate to have arrived just in time, otherwise, letting Amelia die would have been a complete waste. Having dispatched the gun-wielding werewolves, Wang Yunxiao didn't stop to watch the show. He went straight for Raz, intent on testing his prowess against the world's most formidable fighter. Bang! Fists and claws clashed, sending Wang Yunxiao and Raz reeling back simultaneously. Wang Yunxiao's pupils shrank slightly. It looked like the blow had been evenly matched, but he clearly realized that in terms of pure power, he was slightly inferior before his zombie transformation. The reason was simple. Wang Yunxiao had just struck suddenly, taking the initiative, while Raz was forced to counterattack. Roar! Facing the roaring Raz, Wang Yunxiao gave up the fight. In a flash, he appeared behind him, the blade of the God of War appearing in his hand at the right moment, slashing down with a sharp blade. Raz's reaction was also not slow. His tall stature did not seem clumsy at all. With a nimble leap forward, he easily avoided the sharp edge of the blade of the God of War. Turning around, he swung his arms, and 5 claws flashing with a cold light swept towards Wang Yunxiao with a whistling sound that cut through the air. Sizzle, sizzle, Wang Yunxiao blocked the attack with his sword, and the claws scraped across the blade, sparks flying and a sharp metallic sound of friction. A glance at the blade, once smooth as a mirror, revealed 4 distinct scratches. This truly distressed Wang Yunxiao, and at the same time, he gained a clearer understanding of the sharpness of Raz's claws. Wang Yunxiao simply stopped engaging Raz head-on, using his flash dodge to its fullest potential, simply maneuvering around him. He also saw that Amelia had cornered the werewolves and would soon be able to completely eliminate them. Then, he'd let the 2 vampires fight the strongest of the werewolves to their heart's content. Unexpectedly, Amelia wasn't foolish either. After dispatching the werewolves, she didn't immediately engage Raz, clearly harboring the same ambition as Wang Yunxiao. As for joining forces with Wang Yunxiao, that was a complete joke. Amelia couldn't even tell if he was a friend or foe, so how could she rashly join forces with him? However, Wang Yunxiao had anticipated this situation and vanished from the train in a flash, waiting to see what Raz would do. Roar! As expected, after losing sight of Wang Yunxiao, Raz immediately set his sights on Amelia and lunged towards her. Thanks to Wang Jiang Hanayu and Dark Moon Fang for the guaranteed monthly pass. 3 updates are here today. Please bookmark, subscribe, recommend, and vote. Chapter 148 Amelia's Death. When Wang Yunxiao returned to the train, Amelia was already locked in a fierce battle with Raz. One was savage and ferocious, the other brutal and ruthless, making it difficult to determine the winner in a short period of time. Wang Yunxiao, unfazed, watched calmly and with rapt interest. This was far more exciting than the action blockbusters he'd watched in the cinema during his first life. However, Amelia had already determined that Wang Yunxiao was definitely an enemy, not a friend, so how could she allow him to sit back and watch? She deliberately steered the fight towards him, hoping to draw him in. Well, I'll just play along. Seeing this, Wang Yunxiao's fighting spirit soared. Without waiting for Amelia's next move, he wielded the God of War blade and joined the fray. He had simply been skeptical of a life or death battle with Raz, while Amelia waited for him to tire himself out. Swish! Swish! A flash of sharp blades flashed, the first striking directly at Amelia's chest and abdomen, the second slashing diagonally towards Raz's massive wolf head. He wasn't afraid of provoking a coalition between the two. Given the millennia-old blood feud between vampires and wolves, that was simply impossible. And so it proved. Both Amelia and Raz, while fiercely counterattacking Wang Yunxiao, attacked each other with even greater ferocity. Thus, the 3 engaged in a chaotic battle, with neither gaining a significant advantage. Overall, however, Wang Yunxiao handled the situation with relative ease. Ultimately, he was merely a spoiler. Amelia and Raz were the true mortal enemies. As time passed, the 3-way melee continued, with Raz the first to show signs of weakness. Despite his immense strength, having already reached the pinnacle of this world, he was still slightly behind Wang Yunxiao and Amelia. Coupled with their intentional and unintentional attention, it was no surprise that he was the first to fall behind. Swish, 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 Wang Yunxiao swung his hand, suddenly slashing out 3 times. Although each was blocked by Raz, his increasingly heavy body left him wide open. Bang! Seizing this opening, Amelia launched a powerful sidekick, landing a solid sidekick on Raz's massive whiff-like head. Bang! With a dull thud, Raz was sent flying, crashing through the iron carriage wall and disappearing into the night. Wang Yunxiao also keenly noticed that Raz had fallen unconscious the moment he was kicked. This was something not only he but also Amelia. This gave the two of them more time to properly resolve their issues. Who are you? Amelia stared at Wang Yunxiao cautiously. The recent three-way melee had made it abundantly clear to her that Wang Yunxiao was more than capable of posing a formidable threat. Wang Yunxiao met her gaze with apathy, his grin revealing 4 sharp, zombie-like fangs. His eyes transformed into emerald green. Are you also a vampire? No. Who are you? Amelia was startled at first, then acutely sensing the aura Wang Yunxiao exuded, a fundamental difference from their vampire clan. Her pupils constricted violently, and she demanded sharply. Roar! With a deep roar, Wang Yunxiao suddenly charged forward, instantly reaching Amelia's presence, leaving a trail of afterimages in the air. Clearly, this was simply the result of his sheer speed. After embodying his zombie form, his strength had skyrocketed. Clang! A crisp metallic clang echoed. Amelia's fingertips, no less sharp than Raz's wolf claws, slashed against the edge of the blade of the god of war, sending sparks flying. Clang, clang, clang. Wang Yunxiao's strikes, each swifter and fiercer than the last, descended upon Amelia like a whirlwind. Amelia held her ground, her pale claws waving repeatedly, slicing through the air with a series of piercing sounds. While protecting herself impenetrably, her counterattacks were equally fierce. Both men, exerting their full strength, speed, and reflexes to the utmost, engaged in a fierce battle that crisscrossed the carriage, leaving a trail of afterimages in the air. Most people in this situation would have struggled to discern which of these afterimages were real and which were fake. Wang Yunxiao was astonished. He hadn't expected Amelia to still have some strength left. Little did he know that Amelia's fear was far greater than his own. And it wasn't that Amelia was holding back, but rather she decisively employed the secret techniques of her vampire clan, barely managing to hold off Wang Yunxiao for a brief moment. Yes, it was only a brief stand. Every secret technique comes at a heavy price. Every second Amelia held out burned her blood, and the fight only ended when half of her blood was consumed. Wang Yunxiao wasn't aware of this, and his memory of the plot had never seen such a situation before. However, it wasn't surprising. This was the real world, after all, not a movie. In just a few minutes, Amelia's already pale face grew even paler, her movements becoming increasingly stiff, her attacks growing weaker. Wang Yunxiao finally understood, and his attack became even more fierce and swift, forcing Amelia into a state of disarray. Bang! With a dull thud, Amelia flew backwards helplessly. The figure flashed, and Wang Yunxiao caught up in an instant, and hit Amelia's lower abdomen with another solid punch, making her fly backwards even faster. Wang Yunxiao flashed above Amelia again and stomped down with both feet. Immediately, she curled up like a shrimp and fell heavily to the ground, smashing a deep hole in the floor of the carriage. Wang Yunxiao leaned down slightly, stretched out his hand to grab Amelia's neck, and lifted her out of the deep hole directly, holding her high above his head, with her feet off the ground. Who are you? At this time, Amelia was no longer able to struggle, but stared at Wang Yunxiao with eyes full of unwillingness and despair, and asked intermittently, "I will be your nightmare." Amidst the deep and magnetic murmur, Amelia felt a pain in her neck and her eyes widened in fear. She was very familiar with this feeling. Although it was a long time ago, she felt it again at this moment. As less than half of the blood in her body continued to drain, Amelia's pupils gradually became dilated, and her arms, which had been tightly grasping Wang Yunxiao's wrists, drooped limply. Celebrating the 2,000 subscriptions, an additional chapter will be added. I hope that new and old book friends will continue to support this book. Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 149 Meeting Selena Again. Wang Yunxiao casually tossed Amelia's shrunken corpse aside. His face betrayed no joy, but rather a deep frown. This wasn't just because Wang Yunxiao had clearly noticed a significant loss of blood in Amelia. More importantly, his zombie blood hadn't improved at all. That's right. Not even a single bit. This situation was completely illogical. Given Amelia's strength, even less than half her blood should have been enough to nourish her zombie bloodline, right? After pondering for a long time, Wang Yunxiao still had no clue. In a flash, he was out of the car. The next moment, he appeared before the unconscious Raz. Reaching out and lifting Raz up, Wang Yunxiao, without hesitation, bit his neck, sending a stream of boiling blood gushing into his body. Wang Yunxiao's pupils shrank slightly. The zombie blood within him remained stagnant, showing no improvement at all. However, adhering to the principle of not wasting anything, he still absorbed Raz into a dried corpse. How could this be? Could it be that my zombie bloodline's bottleneck is the second generation? Wang Yunxiao's mood was truly turbulent. He even wanted to return to the Marvel Universe without hesitation. However, his remaining rationality told him that even if he returned to the Marvel Universe, he wouldn't necessarily find a solution. Returning or not really made much difference. Thump, thump, thump. Although he tried hard to control his emotions, Wang Yunxiao's heavy footsteps gradually receding made it clear that he was not at peace at the moment. The night was dark and windy, and the autumn rain was bleak. Suddenly, a flash of lightning split the night sky, illuminating the dim alley between the dilapidated residential buildings below as bright as day. Buzz, buzz, a black car sped out with a roar of its engine. Closely behind it, a figure was swiftly pursuing. Not particularly tall, but exceptionally muscular. Bang! With a resounding thud, the figure suddenly leaped onto the roof of the car. A flashing blade gleamed from his sleeve and thrust down with force, easily piercing the roof. Inside the car, Selena and Michael, sitting in the passenger seat, both gasped. Fortunately, the blade missed, piercing only between them. Selena, needless to say, was the undisputed heroine of this world, the moonlight goddess whom Wang Yunxiao had determined to capture upon his first encounter with it. As for Michael, the hero of this world, though only human, his bloodline rivaled that of the ancestors of both vampires and werewolves. Otherwise, he would never have been able to perfectly merge the bloodlines of both races into one. The one pursuing them was no stranger, but the Wolf Clan's leader, Lucian, rumored to have been dead for over 500 years. This demonstrates the nobleness of Michael's bloodline. For its sake, Lucian even risked his own life, bringing with him a host of elite wolf warriors. Crack, puff, but before they could even breathe a sigh of relief, another blade pierced the car's roof, this one perfectly timed, piercing Selena's shoulder blade. HMPH, blood instantly soaked her tight black leather jacket. Selena grunted, fighting back the excruciating pain. She yanked the steering wheel, sending the car spinning and flinging Lucian off the roof. AWW, a shrill wolf howl echoed through the night sky, and Lucian instantly transformed into a tall, powerful werewolf, blocking the car's path. Selena's azure eyes narrowed sharply. From the menacing aura emanating from Lucian, she could tell she was in grave danger tonight. Perhaps I shouldn't have rashly come looking for him. Glancing sideways at Michael, who was already stunned by the series of events, Selena felt a wave of bitterness. Knowing the wolf tribe was targeting this man, she had still forged ahead, recklessly coming to investigate without even a thorough plan or preparation. But even more perplexed, Selena couldn't understand why the wolf tribe attached such importance to this seemingly ordinary man. Although she didn't recognize Lucian's identity, she was certain he held a significant position within the wolf tribe. It wasn't for anything else, it was simply his strength. After all, Selena was the best warrior among the Deathwalkers. Faced with such a desperate situation, she didn't lose all confidence. Instead, she found the courage to fight on. The Deathwalkers, a special combat squad formed by the vampire race, comprised entirely of their most elite vampire warriors, were dedicated to combating and eradicating the growing threat posed by the Wolf Clan. Buzz, buzz, the roar of the engine grew increasingly frantic, and the wheels scraped against the ground at high speed, stirring up billowing white smoke and the smell of burning rubber. Lucian paid no attention to this, simply standing there casually. He held his sharp arm blade slightly to his lips, licking the blood from it with his tongue. His eyes suddenly lit up, revealing a glint of excitement and bloodlust. Bang! However, just as the car was about to burst out, and Lucian had barely paused, he was suddenly sent flying backwards. Then, Wang Yunxiao suddenly appeared where he had been. The arrow had been strung, and it had to be released. At this moment, Selena couldn't care less. She abruptly pulled back from the brake pedal, and the car roared straight towards Wang Yunxiao. Fuck, this is so heartless, Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but complain. He leaped high and landed steadily on the car's roof. No matter how fast the car was going, he remained motionless. AWW, a shrill wolf howl came from afar, but it grew closer and closer, closing in on the car's rear in a matter of seconds. You still won't give up, Wang Yunxiao was slightly surprised. According to the original plot, after biting and infecting Michael, Lucian should have stopped pestering him? Or had something happened in the meantime, leaving Lucian unable to bite Michael? The next moment, Lucian rushed in like a cannonball, his sharp arm blade, carrying a chilling chill, piercing Wang Yunxiao's head. Wang Yunxiao was calm and composed, sweeping out the blade of the god of war in his hand, striking Lucian's arm blade with a narrow stroke. Clang, a crisp, shrill sound of metal clashing, and the two of them were thrown backwards. The difference is that Lucian is getting farther and farther away from the car, and it should be very difficult for him to catch up. On the other hand, Wang Yunxiao is right in front of the car, and in a flash he has sat safely in the back seat. Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 150 The Origin of the Two Clans. Hey, beautiful lady, I'm here to help you, after all. Is it really okay to be so heartless? Wang Yunxiao teased casually in the back seat, half smiled. Who are you? Selina's cold, wary gaze fixed on Wang Yunxiao through the rearview mirror. I'm your admirer, I suppose. Wang Yunxiao's lips curled up slightly, a playful smile forming, a glint of surprise in his eyes. Selina frowned slightly, not only because of Wang Yunxiao's flirtatious words, but also because she accidentally scratched her shoulder blade, causing a sharp pain. Who are you? Stop the car. I want to get out. At this moment, Michael finally came to his senses and immediately shouted at Selina to stop. Shut up. Selina glanced at Michael coldly. Not only did she not intend to stop, but she actually stepped on the accelerator. Stop, Michael shouted back. Perhaps because of his fear, his voice, though loud, was trembling. Shut up, Selina, already in a bad mood, was now even more annoyed by Michael's clamor. She immediately pulled out her pistol and pointed it at his head. Okay, I'll shut up. Relax, relax, Michael instantly became obedient, not daring to move. Tell me. Why are those Rickens coming after you? Selina's Rickens was the vampire term for the werewolves, a term filled with contempt and insult. I don't know, I really don't know. Michael shook his head frantically, desperately trying to distance himself from those monsters, fearing that Selina might get excited and accidentally discharge her gun, which would be a truly unjust death for him. Honestly, he was completely bewildered. He couldn't understand why those monsters would come after him. Hey, beautiful, just a reminder, you've lost a lot of blood. Is this really okay? Wang Yunxiao suddenly interjected, seeing the two still at a stalemate. You shut up too, Selina retorted coldly, but she put away her pistol and returned to driving cautiously. Well, maybe I should drive. I don't want to die yet. After a moment's thought, Wang Yunxiao kindly warned. Shut up, and I'll feel better. Selina snapped again, but overwhelmed with emotion, her eyes closed and she passed out. Hey, be careful, Michael screamed in terror as the car spun violently, hurtling towards the nearby river. See, I told you to be careful, Wang Yunxiao muttered softly, reaching out to place a hand on Selina's shoulder, and the two of them suddenly disappeared into the car. As for Michael, who cared if he lived or died? Wang Yunxiao was a mean-spirited person. In the original storyline, he'd take advantage of the situation in the future and capture Selina's heart, though that hadn't happened yet. In the top suite of the 5-star hotel, Selina suddenly opened her eyes with a soft moan and looked around warily. Awake? How are you feeling? Wang Yunxiao asked with a slight smile, a concerned look. Where is this place? Upon hearing this, Selina's gaze immediately fixed on Wang Yunxiao. The hotel. You were badly injured, so I had no choice but to bring you here. It seems the guy's knife had been laced with something designed to counteract your system, Wang Yunxiao explained gently. Thank you, Selina murmured, her guard slightly softened. Wang Yunxiao's words didn't surprise her. After so many years of dealing with the wolf tribe, each side naturally had its own methods of restraining the other. How long was I unconscious? Selina's expression suddenly changed, and she asked anxiously. 3 days. Wang Yunxiao held up 3 fingers. Where's Michael? Selina pressed on. I don't know, Wang Yunxiao said nonchalantly, spreading his hands. However, seeing Selina's concern for Michael made him feel a little annoyed, even though he knew Selina wasn't yet attracted to him. At the same time, Wang Yunxiao felt even more shrewd about his decision to ignore Michael. He even began to consider finding an opportunity to eliminate Michael, putting an end to it all. "How could you let him go?" Selina exclaimed in frustration. "Oh? Why can't I?" Wang Yunxiao asked with a half-smile. "Don't you know that the wolf tribe is making a big push to capture him?" Selina raged. "Yes, even Lucian has personally gone out. But what does this have to do with me?" Wang Yunxiao remained nonchalant. "What are you talking about? That's impossible. Lucian was killed by Craven over 100 years ago?" Selina exclaimed in disbelief. Wang Yunxiao remained silent, simply staring at Selina, a flicker of sarcasm in his eyes. Could it be? Selina's eyes, clearly reflecting on something, grew in disbelief and a touch of horror. "Even Lucian has been dispatched, which only proves he must have a very big secret," Selina said again in a quiet voice, calming down a little. "I know," Wang Yunxiao shrugged, interrupting Selina. "What?" Selina paused slightly, somewhat confused by Wang Yunxiao's meaning. "I mean, I know why the wolf tribe wants to capture him," Wang Yunxiao said, suppressing a smile. Selina's stunned expression was truly amusing. "Why? Tell me now," Selina, apparently not noticing Wang Yunxiao's annoyance, pressed on eagerly. "That's a long story, even going back to the origins of your vampire clan. Are you sure you want to hear it?" Wang Yunxiao raised an eyebrow, pretending to tease her. "Stop talking nonsense and tell me." Selina was no less gracious, snapping at him. "Alexander Corvinus, have you ever heard of this name?" Wang Yunxiao was deliberately trying to whet Selina's appetite. Selina also saw it, and did not respond to Wang Yunxiao's words, but just stared at him coldly. "Well, in the 6th century, as a Hungarian general, the village he governed suffered a large-scale plague and a purge. Everyone died, and only he survived." Wang Yunxiao curled his lips slightly in boredom, and stopped teasing Selina, and slowly told the story. But the plague virus also changed his genes, making him the first person in the world to have an immortal body. Later, he had 3 sons, and they all inherited his immortal body. As Wang Yunxiao narrated, Selina also slowed down her cold attitude and listened attentively. "Please collect, subscribe, recommend, and vote for me." End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.